Mom, look at that. Dad told me a secret. My daughter said, pulling at my sleeve. Looking in the direction she pointed, I saw my husband's smartphone, its case and screen shattered from the accident. Then she pointed at the messenger icon, saying, "This." Wondering what was going on, I cautiously opened it, asking, "What's this?" I immediately stripped off all the patient pants my husband was wearing, checking every nook and cranny, and there it was. I couldn't help but cover my mouth with my hand. My name is Heather. It's been a few years since I got married, and now we have one child. My daughter's name is Amy. She goes to the nearby kindergarten and loves her friends, being a favorite among the kindergartners. After graduating from a pastry school, I started working at a restaurant and met my husband, Richard, there. He was 4 years older than me, a mid-level chef who was bright, handsome, and popular among the part-time girls who often asked him out for meals. So when Richard and I, who were plain and unremarkable, announced our marriage at work, our colleagues and customers were quite surprised, and some of the girls even harassed us. Upon finding out about the pregnancy right after the marriage, I quit my job and dedicated myself to childcare for a while. Then, when Richard turned 30, we opened a cafe on the ground floor of our house. Richard, who had always dreamed of having his own shop since childhood, I remember seeing his face sparkle like a boy when he saw the finished interior. To support him, I helped out at the cafe alongside childcare, focusing on new menus and attracting customers. Our cafe was located in the middle of a residential area, so during lunchtime, it was mostly occupied by housewives. Taking note of this, we started hosting a simple cooking school at the cafe on our day off once a week. Rumors spread about being taught by a good-looking former restaurant chef, and to my delight, the cooking school now has a long waiting list of students. The cake recipe you taught us last week was a big hit with my son and husband. That's great. Feel free to come for lunch with your family next time. Our chef will surely be delighted. Of course. Customer feedback like this is what motivates us more than anything, my husband said cheerfully while finishing up the cooking, humming a tune. Every time I witness such moments, I feel truly grateful from the bottom of my heart that we were able to open this cafe. The management of the restaurant was on track, and with Amy starting kindergarten this spring, I was looking forward to working harder. But just then, unfortunate news reached our family. Every time I witness such moments, I feel truly grateful from the bottom of my heart that we were able to open this cafe. The management of the restaurant was on track, and with Amy starting kindergarten this spring, I was looking forward to working harder. But just then, unfortunate news reached our family. A call came to the shop informing us that Richard's father had suddenly passed away from an illness. His father, who was still active as a business owner and in good health, had never seemed sick to us, so his death was unbelievable to our family. I urged my husband to quickly inform the rest of the family, but I could see a slightly bitter expression on his face. I immediately knew who he was contacting by that expression. It was Richard's brother, John. Although Richard and I are 4 years apart, I've heard from my husband in the past that he had a troubled past, causing trouble at school and work many times, not to mention the numerous times he had run-ins with the police. Since then, neither my husband nor I had any contact with him, and my husband had been avoiding us meeting John. However, it seemed like that wouldn't be the case this time. After a brief conversation over the phone, my husband's somber expression conveyed a warning: the funeral is coming, but his face also warned, be careful of him. My husband's strong reaction made me curious about what kind of person he really was, but just mentioning John's name from my mouth was enough to sour his mood, I'm sure. We started preparing for the funeral in earnest the next day, but there was much more to do than I had anticipated. Time flew by, and before I knew it, the funeral was over, and Richard's father's ashes returned to my husband's family home. The atmosphere remained somber even after we returned home, so my husband and I tried to distract ourselves from the sadness by reopening the cafe the next day. Our customers seemed to have been waiting for the reopening, as the day went by in a blur of busyness, and I felt like I couldn't remember much about my father-in-law. As I was about to let myself succumb to exhaustion and sleep without thinking about the sadness, I couldn't. Because as closing time approached, the last person my husband would want to see arrived at the shop. "Long time no see, Richard." "Well, I did see you yesterday, but you came all the way to the shop. How about serving us dinner for two?" "Hey, Rachel, it's fine to have dinner here tonight, right?" "Huh? In this shabby place?" "Well, whatever. By the way, this place is so small." It was Richard's brother, John, and his wife, Rachel. They sat down at a table without permission and started looking at the menu. While muttering, "Troublesome guy came," Richard came out of the kitchen. "What are you here for?" "I'm pretty sure I told relatives not to give you the address of our shop. Besides, we're already closed today, so please leave." "Well, it's not that simple. I have something important to discuss. I came all the way here. You seem to be running your own shop and making quite a bit of money without any stress, right? While we work desperately every day and only get peanuts for pay. So, it wouldn't be a problem for you to just hand over all of Dad's inheritance to me, right? It's enough that you say you'll give up all of the inheritance." While saying this, Richard continued to look at the menu without looking up. It seems John came to persuade us because he wanted to monopolize the inheritance. I wouldn't just say okay to that kind of talk. The inheritance will be distributed as planned among the siblings. Whether you agree or not doesn't matter, and this isn't a place for you to be. Please leave." As Richard replied, John looked up from the menu and glared silently at Richard, then kicked the table hard with his foot. I was surprised by the sudden action, as the wooden table crashed loudly onto the floor, menus and decorations scattering around. "Richard, can't you just listen to what I, your brother, have to say? You've been disowned by Dad once. You're no longer my brother. You're a stranger." Despite John appearing to be at the peak of anger, Richard remained calm, not changing his expression. I see. I understand your position well. However, you'll regret defying me." Turning red with anger, John grabbed Richard's collar. After saying this, he and Rachel left the shop. The floor looked scattered as if a storm had passed, and the shop fell into silence. The only relief was that Amy was already asleep in her room and wasn't involved in the commotion. But the real storm began the next day. The next morning, when I went out to open the shop, I found large graffiti sprayed on the shutters. What's this? It's terrible. Insults like "terrible food" or "never coming again" were written in red letters, standing out. I immediately reported it to my husband and tried to clean the graffiti, but soap and water alone couldn't remove it. Reluctantly, we contacted a professional cleaner to have it cleaned. Furthermore, during the day, we were asked by customers, with quite anxious faces, "Hey, I want to confirm something. Is it true that you use expired ingredients in this shop?" This happened several times. When I asked them for more details, it seemed that someone had posted on the internet that they had stomach pains after eating our food, or that the food smelled rotten when they ate it. I heard that there had been an increase in the number of word-of-mouth reviews on the internet, which stated things like, "I had stomach pains after eating our food." I was concerned because there had been a large increase in the number of word-of-mouth reviews on the internet. Panicked, I explained that we never serve dishes that endanger customers' safety and that there had been an increase in prank reviews on the internet lately. However, all the customers seemed to remain suspicious. If there really were cases of food poisoning, it would be a big problem, but so far, there had been no reports of such patients from the health department. I was convinced that it was the work of those two. The harassment continued to escalate, with silent calls, negative posts on social media, and even spreading rumors deliberately tarnishing our reputation in front of the shop. Although the number of customers gradually decreased, regulars and acquaintances who knew us well increased their visits to the shop, bringing along friends, showing their support. For my husband and me, it was deeply appreciated and heartwarming. However, no matter how much they supported us, the harassment didn't stop. If the harassment was directed only at me and Richard, we could endure it. But if it turned against Amy, it would be irreversible. Once I started thinking that way, I couldn't sleep at night out of fear, and I couldn't focus even when Amy was at kindergarten, and my husband seemed to be in the same state. After discussing with Richard, we decided to give a portion of the property to John and Rachel before the harassment got worse and Amy was put in danger. One day, I went to the usual market in the morning for shopping. I thought there would be few customers on a weekday, but I felt a strange unease as I hurried back to the shop to make it in time for opening hours. Despite the opening time being near, the shutters remained closed. Feeling odd, I went around to the back door and entered the shop, but the room was eerily quiet, and Richard was nowhere to be seen.
"Mommy!"
I heard Amy's voice from the back of the shop, so I quickly put down my things and headed towards the direction of the voice.
"Amy! What are you doing in such a dark place? Weren't you supposed to go to kindergarten with Daddy?"
Amy shook her head anxiously. "No, you see, Mommy, I dressed myself, but Daddy went outside. So, I waited here." Feeling sorry for how long she must have been alone in the shop, I instinctively hugged her tightly. "I see. You did a great job waiting alone. By the way, why did Daddy go outside?" Daddy and Uncle John and Aunt Rachel were here, and they all went out to play, leaving me behind." The names that came out of Amy's mouth made my eyes widen. My heartbeat accelerated, and a vague sense of unease swelled within me. "I'm sorry, honey." I sat Amy down on a chair and hurriedly took out my phone to call Richard. But he didn't answer the phone at all. I tried calling again after hanging up once, but it was still no good. They were taken away by those people over the inheritance issue. Then how should I go about finding them? With John's violent and volatile nature, involving the rough and tough police would be risky. What if he does something to my husband? Should I contact the police just in case? As panic gripped me and my mind raced, it was Amy's voice saying, "Mommy, I'm hungry," that brought me back to reality. I had left breakfast to Richard, thinking I'd be back from shopping in time, but it seems he left before feeding Amy. There's no way we can open the shop today. After temporarily closing the shop with a sign outside, I returned home to prepare breakfast for Amy. As I sat at the table to eat with her, I glanced at the clock and saw that it was nearly noon. Just as I was about to check my phone for any missed calls from Richard, an unknown number called. "Hello. Who is this?" "Hello. I'm with the paramedics. Are you Richard's wife by any chance?" The word paramedic sent a chill down my spine, and the unpleasant thought I had just imagined resurfaced in my mind. While clutching my smartphone tightly, I quietly listened to the person speaking. After the conversation ended, I quickly took Amy and left the house. My hand holding Amy's was visibly shaking. According to the paramedic, Richard had darted into the street and collided with a truck. He had suffered severe injuries and was currently being transported to the hospital by ambulance. With my head in a panic, I drove to the hospital, desperately trying to calm myself with the thought that Amy was in the car. Upon arriving at the hospital, I rushed to find Richard, but a nurse informed me he's in critical condition and undergoing emergency surgery. No time for details. Amy and I were left waiting, and I stared intently at the operating room light. I'm not sure how much time passed, but I noticed Amy had fallen asleep using my lap as a pillow. From the window at the end of the hallway, I could see the evening sky tinged with red. My hands, still shaking since noon, gently stroked Amy's head, making a soothing sound. Then the light went out, and the doctors and nurses emerged. "Are you his wife?" "Yes, that's me." "How is Richard, my husband?" "Please be assured, your husband has pulled through. However, he has not regained consciousness yet. It all depends on his physical strength and vitality now."
"Oh no!"
Richard was moved to the ICU, and I sat beside him, staring at his face, showing no signs of awakening. Feeling drained and overwhelmed by anxiety about the future. I wondered what would happen if Richard never regained consciousness. No, I couldn't afford to think like that. I gripped my husband's hand, trying to dispel the anxiety and praying for his safety. Then I noticed Amy tugging at the sleeve of my shirt.
What's wrong, Amy? Are you tired?
Shaking her head, she pointed at Richard's smartphone with a cracked screen and case. Look at this. Dad said it's a secret from Uncle John and the others. Then she pointed to the Line app icon, saying, this one. Suspicious, I hesitantly opened it. I saw a barrage of messages that seemed like threats sent from John, now called John, to Richard. Scrolling through, the messages appeared to have been sent over several days. But among them, I discovered a terrifying image and involuntarily stopped scrolling. What is this? Amy and a utility knife? The image showed a man's hand holding a utility knife and another of Amy playing in the kindergarten playground, taken from a distance with a zoom lens. Beneath the images was the message, your thigh won't be enough. Hand over all the inheritance. I quickly removed Richard's hospital pants and found a cut among the injuries, likely from a knife. Feeling a deep sense of horror about what John had done, I involuntarily covered my mouth with my hand. I knew he was a violent man, but I never imagined he would actually take action. Thinking there might be more threatening evidence, I checked Richard's smartphone again. As I suspected, there were messages left in other apps, including a recording of this morning's conversation between Richard and John. I needed to confirm what happened at the store. With trembling fingers, I pressed the play button. The content was indeed from this morning, but it was so horrifying that my face turned pale, and I accidentally dropped Richard's smartphone due to my trembling fingers. As I sat in the chair, dumbfounded, John and his wife entered the hospital room. Instead of showing concern for Richard's condition, John blurted out, given his condition, he's got a few days left at most. Have you contacted the funeral home yet? When is it going to be? We're busy, so you better hurry up and decide. Wow, he's a goner for sure. My condolences. While they casually asked me, I was seething with anger at John and his wife. Clenching my fist, I glared at John. What? What's with that look? What do you think we did, huh?
What did you do, you ask? Just stop showing your rotten nature. John, he left all the evidence to tell me what you two did.
I blurted this out and played the earlier conversation from Richard's smartphone again. The recording started with John and his wife coming to the store while I was out shopping. You two again. What do you want this time? We came to negotiate directly since you won't hand over the inheritance, no matter how long we wait. You saw the photos we sent, right? After a pause, there was a commotion as Richard hurriedly left the store. The sounds of Richard's heavy breathing and footsteps on the ground suggested he was running. Probably to get away from the store to avoid harm to Amy. However, John's voice could be heard shouting, "Wait, you bastard," followed by, "Do you care what happens to your daughter? You know she's still inside the house, right? We won't guarantee her safety unless you hand over all the inheritance." Fine. I'll give you all the inheritance. Just promise me and get out of my family's life. Right after Richard screamed that, the sound of a truck's brakes and the screams of passers-by filled the air. Then the recording stopped. It's because you two came to the store that Richard. Before I knew it, I was crying and shouted at John and his wife through tears.
What are you talking about? There's no evidence we pushed him.
How strange. She never said anything about being pushed, did she? Suddenly, John turned around at the sound of an unfamiliar voice from behind. I'm from the East Police Station. We received a report of an attempted murder, so I came immediately. The detective introduced himself while showing his badge. Unprepared for the police's arrival, John and his wife froze, their expressions turning pale. Indeed, after listening to the recording, I had immediately contacted the police. Are you the one who called, Heather? Yes, that's me. Thank you for coming all the way to the hospital. Hearing this, John and his wife muttered "you jerk" under their breath and glared at me with bloodshot eyes. They wanted to hear more details, so I explained everything meticulously, showing the evidence I had collected from the past harassment to today's incident. While I was explaining, another detective arrived and handed over a laptop, saying, "Here's the surveillance footage. Please check it." The detective who was listening to me checked the footage, which was indeed from the scene of today's incident. Fast forwarding to the time of the incident, Richard, followed by John and his wife, appeared. It seemed like there was a commotion, and it looked like John's wife pushed Richard. "By the looks of it, you two are wearing the same clothes in this footage, so it's definitely you two, isn't it?" Though it was clear they were the ones in the footage, John and his wife remained silent, unwilling to admit it. Then, Rachel, who had turned pale since the police arrived, spoke up.
"No, that's wrong. I didn't push him, I just reached out because he was staggering."
She hysterically raised her voice, trying to make excuses, but the police presented more evidence. The detective switched to a different footage, this time showing a truck's dashcam. In the video, Richard appeared on the left side of the screen, and she was seen forcefully pushing Richard's back, causing him to tumble in front of the truck. After seeing this footage, do you still claim you just reached out to him? What do you say? Unable to make any more excuses, Rachel collapsed to the floor. At that moment, miraculously, Richard woke up.
"Richard, are you okay? I'll call the nurse right away."
Awakening, Richard started to move his mouth as if trying to say something. "Let me explain." "Richard, you can talk? Take your time, it's okay." Hearing my words, Richard slowly nodded and began to reveal the truth about this morning's events. After rushing out of the store, he was quickly caught up by John and Rachel. He disclosed how they had threatened him. He also revealed that John grabbed Richard, who was not responding to his demands, and that during the struggle, Rachel pushed him as hard as she could.
"Don't bullshit us. We don't know anything."
John, denying the truth that Richard had told, began to act out and tried to resist when a detective attempted to restrain him, eventually hitting the detective in the face. His assault led to an arrest for obstructing law enforcement, as John was subdued and arrested by several detectives. Rachel, too, kept screaming, "It wasn't me. I just reached out to help," but was eventually handcuffed and taken away. Having witnessed everything, I suddenly felt all strength leave my body and slumped into the chair. "Richard, why did you keep quiet about being slashed?" "I didn't want to worry you, Heather, since the harassment continued and you were always there for the cafe and me." "I'm sorry," Richard said, looking remorseful, and I was left speechless. Later, the police revealed that the motive behind John and Rachel's actions was indeed to target our family's wealth, resulting in their disinheritance. John, even after being disowned, had not held a steady job and had been lavishing money on a hostess at a familiar club, accumulating debt, while Rachel indulged in luxury goods with the borrowed money. Eventually, they resorted to loan sharks and were chased by debt collectors, growing tired of such a life when they heard of the father's death. Their share of the inheritance would only cover their debts, leading them back into a cycle of borrowing. That's when they targeted our wealth, thinking they could use Amy as leverage to make us comply with their demands. They forced Richard to promise the inheritance, but believed that if Richard himself were gone, they could get all of the wealth unconditionally. Due to the egregiousness of their harassment and motive, John and Rachel received a prison sentence and would be incarcerated for several years. Weeks after the incident, my husband's injuries finally healed, and we were able to reopen the cafe. Amy could safely attend kindergarten again, and I believed our family could continue to live peacefully. Yet I carried an unsettling feeling since the day Richard was brought to the hospital and I had to remove his pants to check his thigh wound. However, I couldn't pinpoint the source of this unease and felt troubled. One night, Richard went out to celebrate his recovery with friends and came home drunk late at night. He fell asleep on the sofa, and as I thought it must have been fun after a long time and started to change him into his pajamas, I realized what had been bothering me. My husband's leg hair, which had always been there, was completely gone, leaving his legs as smooth as a woman's. While it's true that the trend of beauty-conscious men has grown, Richard was never the type to engage in such grooming. He kept himself clean because he worked in the kitchen, so why would he suddenly go for hair removal? Suspicious, I consulted with a friend knowledgeable about such trends on the same day. She told me that nowadays, women prefer androgynous men who are careful about their appearance over the traditionally masculine ones with leg and chest hair. So, many men nowadays opt for hair removal to be more attractive. For attractiveness, huh? I see. Thinking this was my chance while he was drunk, I decided to check his line messages. I easily unlocked his smartphone with his birth date. Opening Messenger, I found a chat with someone named Karen at the top, saying, "I had a great time today. Will I see you next at the cooking school? Can't wait." It was clear they had been interacting until just before. This Karen, a student who has been attending every week despite the cooking school being notoriously hard to book, was someone I remembered well. She was noticeably younger and cuter compared to the other mostly older students, standing out significantly. It seemed the supposed celebration with friends was a lie, and he had been enjoying his time with Karen from the evening until now. Unbelievable. All the memories of nursing him every day in the hospital, and helping with the cafe, flashed back in my mind, fueling a resolve that he would never be forgiven. I meticulously saved the remaining chat history with Karen and their couple photos, well organized in an album, onto my smartphone. The cafe that we used to run together as a loving couple now seemed irrelevant. Strangely, all the emotions of supporting each other through life with my husband were turning into nothingness. Preparing for my revenge against my husband's betrayal, I meticulously planned for days without missing a detail. Then, on the day of the cooking school, where I had gathered ample material for retaliation, an unsuspecting Karen arrived smiling and greeting the other students. "Hello," she greeted me cheerfully, her face seemingly smug with triumph. When the time came and everyone, including my husband, was assembled, my revenge commenced. As usual, I handed out papers to the students, supposedly with today's recipe.
Today's recipe uses familiar ingredients, I said while replacing the handouts with the exchanges and photos of my husband and Karen, and distributed them to everyone, including them.
They quickly realized what it was and started shaking. "What is this doing here?
What is this? Don't look, everyone!"
The other students, recognizing my husband and Karen, began murmuring, asking questions like, "Isn't this the chef and that student? What's going on?" Given his image as a handsome, former restaurant chef who seemingly ran a cafe harmoniously with his wife, the housewife students started a backlash. "I never thought he was like this. I will never visit the cafe again. This is sickening," they said one after another, and everyone but Karen left the place. "Well, everyone's gone now. The rumors about you two will spread quickly, and this cafe is finished. Can you leave now? I don't want to see your face anymore. After all the care I gave, what a way to repay me," I said coldly, avoiding eye contact with Richard as I put away the kitchen tools the students were supposed to use.
What have you done? How could you do something that drives away the customers we've painstakingly gathered?"
Richard yelled, perhaps out of embarrassment or anger, or maybe both, as if he was about to hit me. "I'm not joking. I have no intention of continuing with this cafe, and I plan to shut it down immediately. Besides, you're worried about the cafe after cheating on me? I've completely lost respect for you."
"What does that matter now? We were finally getting the business on track. You can't just shut it down. Who do you think built this place?"
"Who built it, indeed. It's true you wanted to own a cafe, but I was the one who actually paid for the construction of our home and cafe. Yes, I was the investor in the cafe. It turned out after we got married that Richard, who had worked in restaurants, was bad with money and had hardly saved anything. I had saved money from my days working at a restaurant, so when Richard wanted to open a cafe and asked me to sponsor it, I agreed. I hate to say it now, but I've already put the building up for sale. Tomorrow, the agents will come to clear everything, so please pack your things and leave today."
"What? I haven't heard anything about this. And packing up today, how can you spring this on me all of a sudden?"
"Then forget the stuff, just get out now." Can't you understand I can't stand to breathe the same air as you for one more second? Why don't you stay with Karen? With a look of realization, Richard turned to Karen. Karen, please help me. I have nowhere to go if I'm thrown out of here. You said the other day you wanted to break up with him and live with me, right? Desperately, my husband grabbed Karen's arm, pleading.
What? No way. I'm annoyed being bossed around by that woman. Besides, I live with my boyfriend. You were just a convenient fling because you're somewhat handsome, old man.
My husband, whose recent exchanges with Karen on Messenger seemed like a lie, was left gaping in disbelief at her attitude.
Wait, Karen!
Ignoring Richard's call, Karen left the cafe without looking back at him. Then he turned to me.
Heather, I was wrong. I apologize for everything. Please let's start over, I beg you.
I financed your dream, cared for you, and this is how you repay me by cheating? I can't imagine living with you again. Besides, I've already found a new place for Amy and me to live. We're moving out tomorrow after finalizing everything. I've prepared the divorce papers, just come to pick them up tomorrow. Goodbye. With that, I left Richard alone in the cafe and went upstairs to our home, locking the door behind me. I didn't want Richard to enter ever again. After a while, I saw Richard leave the upstairs home, allowing me to sleep peacefully that night. The next day was busy with movers and waste disposal services clearing out our home and the cafe, leaving it empty. When Richard contacted me to pick up the divorce papers, I hurried downstairs with Amy. We had already packed, ready to move to our new home. I seemed even more resolved than the day before, but I no longer needed to worry. Here, it's filled out, just file it, I said, handing him the divorce papers and leaving with Amy. I filed for alimony against Richard and Karen. Despite Richard's inheritance, he had debts in his name, not related to the cafe, and his daily life became a struggle with repayments, alimony, and child support, leading to a poor lifestyle and despair. Of course, he does not have the financial strength to open a new restaurant, so he is now doing field work in a rural area. He didn't return to restaurant work, seemingly too proud to start from scratch. I thought little of him, but as long as he paid the alimony and child support, it didn't matter to me. When I was getting used to my new life, I opened a cafe in a quiet town. It was small compared to my previous cafe, but I consulted with an architect and built it with great care so that I, now a single mother, could operate it by myself. Perhaps because of its mom-and-pop concept, which makes it easy for customers with children to visit the restaurant, it is becoming so popular that it has even been featured in the local newspaper. Amy was thriving in our new, nature-filled town, and watching her grow was my joy.
Today's dinner is your favorite hamburger, Amy. How about that? Yay! Mammy's hamburgers are the best in the world. I want ice cream for dessert.
Our happy and cheerful conversations made each day special, with her innocent laughter warming my heart. Wanting to protect her smile forever,
I held this strong desire close as we walked hand in hand to the park. It was supposed to be our first trip in a long time, but I had to cancel because of some urgent work. I'll make it up to you later, I promise.
Today was the day we had reserved to go to a luxury hotel as a couple's trip. Shaken by the call from Tom, I asked him why. But he was clearly acting strange and dodging the question. Thinking something must have happened, I immediately called our daughter Holly. So it's true then.
All right, I'll handle it from here. Mom, just stay put at home. I'll get ready and head over soon. Okay, I'll be waiting.
I've always felt something off about Tom's behavior. Tom, who had been strange since before he became the CEO in his early 30s. The distrust isn't easy to shake off, though it's natural for him to be at the company as its CEO. I called Tom again, urging him to come home soon. When Tom returned home in the morning, he apologized. What a foolish man. I thought to myself, then said, "Oh. Why don't you take a look behind you?" The moment Tom turned around and saw me and the person next to me, he went pale. My name is Juliana, a 45-year-old homemaker. Until 2 years ago, it was just my husband, our daughter, and me living together, but recently, Holly got married. Now that she's working, Holly and her husband live together, and it's just Tom and me at home. Thanks to Tom running a well-known company since his early 30s, we had no financial troubles when Holly was young. We used to go on trips often, just the three of us. Holly looked forward to these trips so much that she would make sure Tom made the reservations properly. Tom took care of all the payments for the hotel reservations. Even when I offered to pay, Tom insisted on doing it himself. We thanked each other and must have looked like a loving couple to anyone. I never forgot to be grateful, and I managed our finances well. But this story dates back to when Holly was a child. As Holly entered middle school, Tom's behavior began to change gradually. When I went to pick Holly up and returned home, Tom, who should have been there, was nowhere to be found. I tried calling him several times, but he never picked up. Sometimes, when he did come home, he would just play with his smartphone and fall asleep on the couch. And that's not all. He stopped contributing money to the household, which he had always done before. When Holly wanted to have a wedding ceremony, Tom dismissed it with a displeased look. When she mentioned wanting children, Tom negated it, assuming future hardships. We, as her parents, should have wanted to support her. But Tom wouldn't listen to Holly's opinions and just imposed his own, arms crossed.
You're young, you and your husband should be able to cover it. What's with that attitude? That's so unfair to Holly.
Just because they're young doesn't mean they can easily afford it. I stood up for Holly. But Tom just sneered with a snort, arms crossed. It's the truth, isn't it?
She should be supporting us after all we've done to raise her. Not supporting her is just wrong, don't you think?
My anger made no difference to Tom's opinion. Why all the negativity? The Tom I knew wouldn't have said such things. He used to be so supportive, even when Holly was born. When Holly was a baby, he said childcare should come before work. Maybe it was because many around us became stay-at-home moms, but Tom was kind not just to me but to Holly as well. Even with his busy job, he always came home to see Holly's sleeping face, finding solace in it. He prioritized love above all else, but what changed him? Just thinking about it gives me a headache, so I turned to exercising as a hobby for physical and mental relief. Tom's negativity shocked Holly. Speaking of the person in question, there were many times he hardly came home at all. During such a time, I got a call from Holly. Sorry, Mom. I don't want Dad to know, but I'm pregnant. I can't come home anymore, so I thought I'd tell you in advance.
That's so, I'm relieved. I was afraid you had given up because of what your father said. Not at all. I've always said I wanted kids. I'll raise them right. Yeah, okay. Do your best, Holly. But don't overdo it, okay? Rely on others sometimes.
Holly sounded happy as she replied, got it. I strongly felt that this was something I couldn't tell Tom. I thought it best to say nothing when he came back and just act as usual. Months passed since Tom stopped coming home. Then, I received a message from Holly with a photo attached. It was to announce the birth of her child. A cute child, looking just like Holly, appeared on the screen. How adorable. I'm so glad. Glad that mother and child are safe. As I was tearing up over these thoughts, Tom snatched my smartphone with a threatening tone. Having kids, huh?
How can you say such horrible things? To your own daughter, no less. Isn't your grandchild precious to you? Give me back my phone.
No way.
I thought you and Holly were up to something, and it turns out I was right. Don't expect me to approve of her getting married now.
Tom, who had just come back suddenly, began to deny Holly's personal life. I didn't understand why he was so stubborn, and I argued back.
No parent doesn't support their own child. Maybe you should reconsider your position? And when exactly were you planning to work, being a homemaker all this time? I don't want to hear it from someone who hasn't lifted a finger even after her daughter became an adult.
That stung. I was a homemaker because I was raising our child. I admit there's some truth to his point, but I still intend to stand by Holly. It's a fact that I couldn't stand Tom just complaining and then heading off to work without coming home properly. Being in my 40s, finding a job wasn't going to be easy. After discussing with Holly, I learned that upskilling is a trend in the job market these days. So, I decided to upgrade my skills to get a job. With the help of online courses, I finally acquired some skills. With Holly's support, I managed to start working from home after a long time. Tom made a strange face when he saw me working as usual. He seemed shocked, thinking I was still just a homemaker. I had never seen that expression on him before, and I couldn't help but laugh.
This is good, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I never thought you'd actually work, so I'm surprised.
Despite his criticism of not working, he still looked down on me. Why can he only speak in such a demeaning way? Just as I was about to retort, Tom made a suggestion.
If you're working now, that means we can afford to stay at a luxury hotel.
What is he talking about now? A luxury hotel, the one we talked about going to when we were newlyweds and hadn't been married long? Back then, traveling was my hobby. I had stayed in all the local hotels and wanted to go somewhere new. That's when we found out Holly was on the way, and I said I wanted to prioritize parenting. Since prioritizing parenting, the three of us never went together. My routine was housework, Tom was the CEO of a well-known company, and Holly went to school. I had forgotten for a while, but I finally remembered. Truth be told, I still want to go on a trip. I wanted a couple's trip at some point, so I'm honestly very happy. But seeing Tom's attitude now, I wonder if it's okay to go together. I had thought we could enjoy some good times as a couple, but even now, things are awkward. I decided to try making a suggestion to Tom. Just in case he had any objections, I wanted to leave the decision up to him.
Want to go together? Don't you think it'd be nice for us to have some time together as a couple after so long? But what about the money? I can't prepare it right away, you know.
Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Right, Tom is the CEO of a well-known company. I was so caught up in how poorly Tom was treating Holly, but he remembered the time we went on our honeymoon. Feeling excited inside, I decided to start preparing a week before the reservation date. It seemed like money wouldn't be a concern, but just in case, I decided to bring the money I earned from working from home. Then, on the day we were supposed to go to the luxury hotel, Tom called to say he suddenly had to work.
It was supposed to be our first trip in a long time, but I have to cancel because of some urgent work. I'll make it up to you later, I promise.
I was looking forward to it, but then Tom canceled on the day of the reservation. As I roughly pulled clothes out of the neatly packed carry-on bag, tears of frustration overflowed. Does he think he can just blame everything on work? Asking Tom for a reason only leads to him dodging the question, never consulting with me.
I was looking forward to it, really. I don't understand that man.
I muttered to myself and then cried out loud. After a while, I managed to compose myself. It's all right. I want more than just a marriage in name, I want a real relationship. I'll stop expecting us to be a cooperative couple. I called Holly's phone. Then, I heard Ken's voice over the phone. Holly and Ken were talking about something, but I couldn't make out the details. However, it seemed like Holly was panicking, and Ken was trying to keep calm, almost like they were arguing. It must be about that issue. It seemed like the result of a request I had made to Holly, and Ken was ready. And they said they needed to come over to our house urgently, as it required both Tom and me to be present. Before Holly and Ken arrived, I tried calling Tom's phone. As expected, it went straight to voicemail. Hearing the familiar voicemail message made me even more irritated. After calling several times, I finally got through to Tom. Today is Sunday. He left the house early in the morning and hadn't returned by the evening. Common reasons for divorce include debts or affairs. Despite a bad feeling, I questioned Tom.
Today, Holly is coming over. Please come home soon. There's something important I need to talk to you about. Important talk? Wait, didn't I tell you I had urgent work and had to cancel the trip to the luxury hotel?
Tom laughed as if he had the upper hand. It's hard to believe that a company with weekends off would work on Sunday, especially when it's known as a good company, implying good work-life balance. But listening to Tom's explanation, you'd think the company wasn't so good after all. I decided to share the information Ken had dug up about Tom.
I've heard, but that's not the point. I was wondering if maybe you've gotten into debt. Debt? What are you basing that on? I don't understand.
From your reaction, it seems true. If you don't come back, I'll throw away all your stuff. That's my offer. His voice was trembling. But after hearing what Holly and Ken had found, I didn't want to believe it. Yet, Tom's actions and the word debt seemed to connect correctly. It's natural for a wife to not want to believe such things.
Don't throw away my stuff, please.
No.
If you don't face this, I'm considering divorce. Wait, okay. I'll apologize, just give me some time. I won't accept just an apology, show me through your actions. I'll be waiting at home.
I hung up the phone, feeling my body shaking. It's always painful to be on the receiving end of unpleasant words, to always be the one to tolerate. Exhausted, I sat down at the entrance. Tom's company is supposed to have weekends off. And being the CEO, there shouldn't be any financial issues. Perhaps something was wrong between us as a couple. Even with these feelings, it wasn't my choice to live like this with Tom. As I was thinking this, Holly arrived. Seeing me sitting at the entrance, Holly looked worriedly at me.
Mom, are you okay? Ken is here too. He's smarter than me, so when Dad arrives, let's get everything out in the open.
Yeah. Sorry for showing you such a pathetic sight.
Don't worry about it, it's okay. Plus, today, I was really hoping to eat your cooking, Mom. Do you think you're up for it? Can I help?
Holly was considerate, offering to take over household chores for me. Becoming a mother, Holly. Oh, how desperately I lived as a mother. There were times I was so focused I couldn't see anything else, but I understand it was all to protect my child. For now, we prioritized cooking dinner together. I figured Tom would come back late at night or in the morning. While preparing dinner with Holly, I realized Ken hadn't shown up at all.
Where's Ken? Ken said he'd wait outside because of Dad's issue. Plus, he didn't want to leave the kids alone, so he dropped them off at his parents' and then he's waiting in the car. Right, it's dangerous to leave a child alone. Yeah. Plus, we don't want to expose them to our parents' arguments, right? Ken and I want to live in peace.
I was struck by her words, and Holly gave me a reassuring smile. Parents' arguments. Holly must have endured her share too. It made me feel complicated. Then, a notification popped up on my phone. It was a message from Tom, saying he'd be back tomorrow morning.
I'll let Ken know. We should get ready too. Me too. But how about we all have a light meal first? Good idea.
Until Tom arrived, Holly, Ken, and I gathered to eat together. Ken apologized for being late in greeting us. He was so considerate, it warmed my heart. Seeing the dishes on the table, Ken looked surprised. When I asked why, he laughed joyfully, saying my cooking was too gourmet for him.
And to think, a husband who doesn't eat these delicious meals every day, that's kind of sad, isn't it? I'm used to it, I guess. As long as Holly and you visit occasionally, that's enough for me. That's good to hear. I feel ready to face your husband head on.
We've turned a blind eye to things. Thanks in advance for tomorrow morning, both of you, I said, and Holly and Ken replied in unison, yes. They looked at each other and burst into laughter. It's nice, their closeness. Honestly, I'm so envious of their relationship, it's almost jealousy. But the main issue is Tom's true intentions. The fact that the word debt shook him proves my intuition was right. And the information Holly and Ken gathered was accurate. That fact alone stuck in my mind, making me sad. After dinner and cleaning up, we held a strategy meeting for the next morning. To make sure everything went smoothly. To ensure Tom couldn't make excuses. I hated that Tom always wanted to appear as the good guy while staying safe himself. After the meeting, we decided to sleep in the same room. Waking up, I saw a message from Tom saying he'd be home soon. I shared the news with Holly and Ken, and we took our places as planned. I knew this wouldn't be the end, but the effort we put in was real. I have no regrets about ending our marital relationship. Yet, I couldn't help thinking if there was something more I could have done. If I had acted sooner, maybe we wouldn't have had to go through all this trouble. I would have blamed myself if not for Holly and Ken's comforting presence. I felt pathetic as both a parent and an individual. As I was lost in thought, Tom barged in. He immediately apologized loudly enough for the neighbors to hear.
I'm sorry, Juliana. I'll book a luxury hotel again. Let's go together.
It must have been his way of thinking. Unfortunately, it didn't resonate with me at all. Noticing the silence, he looked up, calling my name while searching the house. But I wasn't there. I was in the car with Holly and Ken.
Now's the time, Mom.
Right, let's do this.
Go for it, Mom.
Encouraged by Holly, I stepped out of the car. As Tom was about to re-enter the house, I called out, "Hey, wait." He turned around in shock, making a strange noise. I took a deep breath before speaking.
Tom, we need to talk.
Talk?
We can reschedule the trip some other time, can't we?
Okay. Then, why don't you take a look behind you? Behind? As he turned, Tom saw Holly and Ken standing behind me. But his reaction to seeing Ken was one of fear.
You are?
Long time no see. I'm married to Holly. You knew that, right?
I'm aware of it.
Where did all that momentum go just now? Ken, with a smile on his face, bowed and reached out for a handshake with Tom. But Tom, shaking off his hand, yelled with a face like a demon.
What happened to my request? You said the results would be quick, but there's been no word at all.
Oh, was that so?
You seemed quite happy plotting your get-rich-quick schemes behind the scenes from dawn till dusk. What's that supposed to mean? I haven't heard anything about it.
Of course, we've got evidence. Your mother was worried about you, but as Holly said, you're just a man after a quick fortune. And then, Ken, having somehow seized them earlier, pulled out several credit cards. Due to Tom's get-rich-quick schemes, the borrowed amount was so high that it was beyond repayment. Let's end this. I can't see you fixing this.
You should apologize to your mother first, like a man would.
Tom muttered something under his breath with a face like the end of the world, but eventually, he slowly bowed his head. In a barely audible voice, Tom said, "I'm sorry." Thanks to Ken's efforts, a brilliant lawyer, Tom's debts came to light. I conveyed to Ken that living together any longer would be meaningless. Ken smiled and said, "Exactly," and proceeded with the paperwork. The detail was about reducing the debt on Tom's cards. However, I decided not to cooperate because I believe in taking responsibility, so I communicated that direction.
Is divorce the right way to go?
Yes, please. Understood.
I will discuss it with Tom again after reviewing the divorce papers. May I act as your representative?
Yes, thank you. Thank you as well. Having given permission for him to act as a representative, Ken also mentioned he would get consent from the person involved later. Meanwhile, Tom was doing a cleaning job. It seems Tom says the consequences of freely spending money as a CEO have caught up to him. Self-inflicted, yet he dares to complain. We decided to file for divorce after our final discussion. Until the very end, Tom kept whining, "I don't want to separate. Stop your futile resistance. I believe it's utterly wrong to ever cause trouble for others again. And instead of hiding and being exposed later, it's better to speak up when necessary. Money, while convenient, can also bring one's life crashing down." Afterward, Tom and I divorced. I started living alone, something I had always wanted, but it felt lonely after always living with someone. When Holly heard about it, she suggested living together. When I asked if she was sure, Holly gladly agreed. Greeted by Holly and Ken. And their little girl, born in the meantime. Her tiny hands grasped my fingers tightly. Pure, tearful eyes looked up at me, making me feel truly grateful. Seeing this, Holly and Ken smiled happily.
Mom, it's a surprise.
A surprise?
Yes, feel my belly?
I felt a slight movement in Holly's belly. Looking up, I asked Holly, a second one?
Yes. It seems I was already pregnant when we started exposing Dad's debts. That's great. I'm so happy to have the chance to care for a child again.
Yes. We're counting on you for a while, Mom.
Leave it to me.
Holly stood smiling beside me. And Ken wanted to get in on the action, saying, "Of course, I'll help out too." It was rare for him to show defiance, and Holly laughed as if it was amusing. Ken is serious about work and now preparing for the second child with Holly. I can't be outdone by the young couple, so I decided to start yoga. As you age, maintaining physical strength becomes necessary. If I'm going to help raise my granddaughter, I need to be fit. Living day by day, especially being careful with money, we plan to live happily and support each other. As soon as Anna walked into our house, she made herself at home in the guest room as if deciding it was her own.
Because it's closest to both the bathroom and the shower, and I don't have to go through the living room, so I don't have to see anyone's face.
Not having to see anyone's face, she must have meant me, but since she's pregnant, I bit my tongue and didn't say anything harsh.
Look, I want you out of this house. You've been nothing but trouble, not working and just leeching off us. You're the worst.
I don't recall ever mistreating my daughter-in-law or not working and leeching off anyone.
That's it, I've had it. This house is in my name, it's my house. My oldest son and his wife will move in, so get out. We'll take care of the mortgage of $1,400.
All right, thinking even though it's $5,400. I agreed readily and decided to leave.
Take the dog with you.
Of course. Leaving Mary in such a hazardous home was out of the question. I feel bad for Ryan, but I thought a devil of a wife had arrived. Cursing, arriving at our home, I've been observing what her real intentions were. Just as I thought, Anna turned out to be truly malicious. Tim was too, surprisingly naive to be deceived by Anna, which shocked me. I know, I'm not young anymore, and I've changed since those days. Still, I thought that's how you age together. Just like that home. Being fickle is a loss. Irresponsible you, who can't finish anything to the end, maybe endless torment fits you. Especially since your favorite young devil will be there with you. Both of you may as well fall into hell together. My name is Holly, a 58-year-old. I met Tim, my husband 6 years younger than me, about 30 years ago through an acquaintance. At the time, I was 28, and Tim was 22. Fresh out of college and in his first year of work, Tim was incredibly bright to me. Tim, who liked older women, was good at pampering but also had a surprisingly gentlemanly and mature side, which made me take a liking to him. It seems Tim felt the same, and after 6 months of dating, we got married. Thinking about expanding our family and our future, we decided to build a house. Tim always said, it's best to build a house while we're young. True, considering the mortgage, younger is better. However, it was difficult to secure a home loan with Tim's credit just starting his first job. I could have used my credit, but Tim's pride insisted on having the house in his name. Eventually, after Tim worked diligently for a year and built a good credit history, we were able to get a loan and build our house. I also worked, saving diligently for our home. Working for our own house didn't feel like a chore. Also, at Tim's strong request, we decided to manage our finances separately after marriage. We opened a joint account for living expenses, each contributing a set amount. Truly, a shared asset of the marriage, from which we'd draw for groceries and utilities. Even after the house was built, we agreed to split the mortgage payment each month. Even deciding on these couples' rules felt exciting because of our newlywed status. A year after our marriage, we joyfully moved into our long-awaited home. The brand new house, which we were particular about in its layout, filled our hearts to the brim. A year after the house was built, we were blessed with our first son Ryan, and 3 years later, with our second son Mark. I felt an immense happiness. Now, 30 years after our marriage, Ryan has married and moved out. With Mark also starting his own life, the spacious house was left to just the two of us. Still, I intended to enjoy the slow, peaceful times with my husband in this house. After the kids left, Tim started talking about getting a dog. Probably to distract from the loneliness, though I suspect there were other reasons. Since it became just the two of us, Tim started treating me harshly.
Waking up to your face first thing in the morning is just tiresome.
He would say such things without a care. Getting older is something we both have to deal with, he said, but he wouldn't accept it, adding, "You used to look so beautiful being older, but I guess aging hits you faster than me, and that's just off-putting." Then he'd just retreat to his room immediately. Essentially, he wanted a dog because he didn't want to face me. I like animals, so I wasn't opposed to getting one. Tim goes to work at the office, but since I've always worked from home, I can watch the dog during the day. My worry is whether Tim can really take care of it responsibly until the end. When we built this house, Tim said, "We're gonna keep it as shiny as new forever." At first, he really put effort into cleaning and maintaining the house daily. But within a month, he got bored and said, "Houses age the more you live in them. Keeping it real is best," and stopped using the expensive pressure washer and other tools we bought for maintenance. Also, when our first son, Ryan, was born, he was all enthusiastic about being in charge of bathing him, saying, "Bath time is my job. Don't you bathe him until I get home." But after the first week, he'd just say he was too tired and go to sleep. He never bathed Ryan again. With our second son, Mark, I ended up taking care of everything from the start. Tim, without doing anything himself, would criticize from the sidelines, "Aren't you wiping him properly? Doesn't he need more moisturizer?" And when I asked him to watch the kids on weekends, he'd say, "Kids are better off being cared for by their mom, right?" and then take a nap himself. Until now, I've just accepted cleaning and childcare as my sole responsibilities because that's supposedly women's work. However, Tim stopped contributing to our joint account years ago. He hasn't put in money for the monthly living expenses, nor for the mortgage. The first month he missed a payment, he said he was broke because of friends' weddings and asked for a pass just for that month, which I agreed to. But then it happened again the next month, and the month after. We couldn't let the mortgage payments slide, so I ended up covering them with my money. Yes, Tim's character is such that he can't keep up with cleaning, childcare, or even his financial obligations. I was worried whether he could properly take care of a dog. I only see a future where I'm taking care of everything. Still, if getting a dog keeps our relationship smooth, I was willing to welcome one into our home. We ended up getting a female puppy, half a year old. Tim fell in love with her at first sight at the pet shop. I was hesitant about getting a puppy, considering the lifespan of dogs and our future. There's a chance we might pass away before the dog does. Then she'd be left all alone. But this worry was alleviated knowing that, if anything happened to us, our sons would take care of her. So, we welcomed her into our family. We named her Mary. When Mary first arrived, she brought smiles to us. Watching her play so hard with her tiny body never got boring. Tim seemed happy taking care of her, feeding her, and brushing her. I thought maybe this time Tim would be able to take care of her without issues. One day, while I was working in my room, I heard Mary barking from the other side of the door. It was 7 p.m., and Tim, who's usually home by then, hadn't returned. So, I fed Mary in Tim's place. But from that day on, similar situations started occurring more frequently. When I casually mentioned to Tim that he seemed to be coming home late recently and that Mary was getting lonely, he said, "We've got a new person at work. I've been showing the ropes. So, you'll have to take care of Mary for a while." I expected it, but it happened sooner than I thought. I assumed he'd at least take care of her until she was a grown dog. But even if there's a new person at work, would an older employee like Tim really need to do the direct training? My suspicion was confirmed when, while Tim was in the restroom, a notification popped up on his smartphone saying, "Thanks for the other day. Let's go out for dinner again soon." It turned out his mentoring was outside of work. The message implied it was from a much younger woman. I sighed and hugged Mary tightly. Since Tim stopped taking care of Mary, she's become much more attached to me. It seems Tim isn't amused by this. On weekends, when he tries to play ball with her, Mary doesn't respond to his invites. Instead, she climbs onto my lap, which makes him exclaim, "Who do you think raised you?" in anger. I've been the one taking care of her these past few months. So, it's natural she'd be more attached to me, but I don't say this to Tim. It's the same with the kids. If anything, they seem to prefer me over Tim. Especially Ryan, who's always been a mama's boy, following me around since he was little. If I disappeared from his sight, he'd start crying loudly, calling out for me, which made me worry about his overly gentle and timid nature. But now that he's married, I guess he's turned out just fine. Just as I was thinking about this, my phone rang. It was a call from Anna, Ryan's wife. "Hello? Actually, I'm pregnant. So, could I stay at your place for a while?" The sudden news surprised me, but the thought of having a grandchild was delightful. Moreover, Ryan is often away from home due to his long-haul trucking job. I suggested that she should come over with Ryan once he's back so we can discuss it together. I thought I heard her say something on the other end, but she cheerfully responded, "Okay, I understand. I'll visit soon," making me think I must have misheard. The weekend came, and Ryan and Anna visited our home together. I was surprised by how slim Anna looked, hardly appearing pregnant. "It's still early, so my belly is small. Don't stare, it's creepy." Ryan chided her for her choice of words, but Anna remained aloof. I had met Anna when she and Ryan were getting married, but she didn't seem like this before. Assuming she must be irritable from the pregnancy, I decided to avoid saying anything that might upset her. Eventually, Tim joined us in the living room, clearly thrilled by Anna's youthful and stylish appearance, making unnecessary comparisons to his old-fashioned wife. Anna laughed it off, saying, "Oh, stop it. I'm sure your wife was better when she was younger too, right?" Ryan looked uncomfortable and sweaty next to her. All I could do was sigh. Ryan, unable to be at home often, probably finds it difficult to assert himself with Anna. Moreover, it seems his current job was secured through one of Anna's connections. Based on her desire for him to earn more, prompting a career change after their marriage. "Sorry, Mom. Since I can hardly be at home, could you take care of Anna for a bit?" Despite my reservations about Anna, I couldn't refuse my dear son's request. Tim, eager for her to stay, blurted out, "Why not start tonight?" So, we agreed to welcome Anna into our home starting the following week. With a look of regret, Ryan hopped back into his truck for another long haul. Upon arriving, Anna immediately claimed the guest room as her own, stating, "It's closest to the bathroom and bath, and I don't have to see anyone if I don't walk through the living room." I swallowed my words, understanding she must be referring to avoiding me, yet I refrained from confronting her since she was pregnant. However, Anna seemed to be out late at night despite her condition, returning home around the last train. When I expressed my concern, she retorted, "Can you not? Pregnant women get stressed, you know," dismissing me. She wouldn't lift a finger for any household chores, expecting me to clean even the room she occupied. Tim excused her behavior, insisting she needs to rest, being pregnant and all. One day, Anna announced she'd be hospitalized for about 2 weeks for a checkup and asked for a significant sum of money, forbidding visits because the nurses will take care of everything. Worried about the baby's health, I complied, despite my concerns for Anna and the unborn child. After a tense 2 weeks, Anna returned from the hospital, noticeably tanner. "Did you get a tan, Anna?" I asked casually, only for her to accuse me of being insensitive about pregnancy-related skin changes. Deciding it was best to remain silent. I was shocked when she declared her dislike for dogs and kicked Mary, leading us to avoid Anna as much as possible. 3 months since Anna's arrival. I've confined myself to my room, working and avoiding any interaction with her. I've been bringing Mary's food and litter to this room so she doesn't have to interact with Anna. I prepare meals early in the morning while both Tim and Anna are still asleep. In the evening, when Anna goes out, I take the opportunity to clean the room and do the laundry. If Anna needs anything, she calls for me, so I avoid her otherwise. One day, when I happened to go to the living room during the day, Anna was cheerfully applying nail polish. Having had trouble with the smell of nail polish when I was pregnant with Ryan, I asked Anna out of simple curiosity. "Are you okay with morning sickness and all?" My question seemed to annoy Anna, who glared at me and then yelled towards Tim in the bathroom. "Hey! Your wife is forcing me to work, saying I don't have morning sickness." Hearing Anna's voice, Tim rushed from the bathroom and berated me. "What are you saying, you awful woman? How can you not understand the difficulties of a pregnant woman, being a woman yourself?" Another time, I caught Anna smoking under the kitchen vent. Reacting instantly, I snatched the cigarette from her. Anna clicked her tongue, looked at me, and dramatically collapsed, yelling,
"Ouch! Please stop it! Forgive me!"
With the living room window open, neighbors gathered around hearing Anna's cries. I apologized, saying it's nothing, and sent them away while Anna gave me a faint smile. Ryan comes home every 2 weeks, and during his visits, Anna behaves incredibly meekly. She hides her devilish side only for the days Ryan is home, and once he leaves for work, her true colors show again. Watching Anna's behavior makes me wonder what Ryan saw in her. And I also question what I saw in Tim, who has now become a puppet to his daughter-in-law. Tim used to work hard with the dream of building a house in his name. He was so earnest and bright back then. It's been 30 years since our dream of building a house came true and we had children. Now, I'm the one paying off the mortgage for this house. Moreover, Tim has stopped contributing to our joint account, leaving me to cover all living expenses. Does he even realize this? Does he have the audacity to lord over me knowing all this? As I was stroking Mary on my bed, pondering these thoughts, a message arrived on my smartphone from Tim. He demanded I come to the living room immediately. Reluctantly, I placed Mary in her cage in the corner of the room and headed to the living room, half wishing he would propose a divorce. Upon arrival, I found Tim and Anna seated on the sofa, using my favorite cups and saucers for tea. They had used the teapot incorrectly, not utilizing the tea strainer, leaving the pot and their cups filled with tea leaves. Still, they seemed to be enjoying the ambience, so I said nothing.
"Let me cut to the chase,"
Tim began. I wondered if he truly understood what that meant as he glared at me. Seeing my nonchalant expression.
"Listen, I want you out of this house. You don't work, and just leech off us. You're the worst. Did you know that Anna is a model? She's planning to continue working even after giving birth. She's commendable, unlike you who's not independent. I've had enough. This house is in my name, and it's my house. I'm going to live with Ryan and his wife. We'll take care of the $1,400 mortgage. I've never bullied anyone, nor have I lived off anyone without working. Anna being a model or whatever was frankly irrelevant to me. If he truly believed I wasn't independent, he was sorely mistaken. There were many things I wanted to contest in Tim's speech, but what puzzled me the most was his mention of a $1,400 mortgage. It seemed he thought that was the cost of our house's mortgage. He must have been mistaken due to not having made payments in a while. But since he was telling me to leave, it hardly mattered at this point. I said, sure, thinking the mortgage is actually $5,400, and decided to leave the house. Take the dog with you too. Of course. I couldn't possibly leave Mary in such a dangerous home. Tim and Anna seemed to have lost all interest in me, caught up in their own conversation.
Right, if Tim is going to take over the mortgage payments, I need to give him the joint account passbook. I went back to my room, grabbed the passbook, and headed to Tim.
This account is set up for the mortgage payments. Please take care of it.
Tim snatched the passbook from me eagerly and started checking it out with Anna, both snickering, probably just looking at the balance. Indeed, it's a significant amount I saved up as our family's savings. They're not even looking at the transaction history, which is what matters. Well, whatever. They can do as they please from now on. I went back to my room and packed my things. Including Mary's stuff, it was more than I expected, but no problem. I don't intend to leave anything important behind in this house. Before leaving, I made a call to my son, Mark. I briefly explained the situation and decided to go to his place. And with that, I left the home I had lived in for 30 years. Leaving this way was honestly sad and frustrating. But at this moment, I didn't want to spend another second there. When I arrived at Mark's place by taxi, he came down to greet me. Seeing him help with the luggage, I felt proud of how much he's grown.
Mom, you've worked hard. Take it easy today.
His kind words almost made me tear up. I took Mark's offer and rested well that day. The next evening, I received a call from Ryan. He must have finished work and gotten home.
Mom, you're at Mark's place? I heard from him. Sorry, it's because I brought Anna over, isn't it? I'm really sorry.
I could sense Ryan deeply apologizing over the phone. Being gentle, he probably couldn't stand up to Anna. His subdued behavior whenever he came home every 2 weeks was likely to ensure he got his salary from her.
I'm fine. But, Ryan, have you seen Anna? How was she?
Ryan hesitated for a moment. Then, he said, Mom, I have something I want to talk about. Can I come over now? As if he had made up his mind. That night, Ryan, Mark, and I talked. Many things became clear. No more doubts, it's time to divorce Tim. I felt bad for Ryan, but I thought a devil-like wife had come into our lives. Observing everything. Just as I suspected, Anna turned out to be truly wicked. Months passed, and her belly never grew. Since the day she came back from the hospital, her skin was tanned. Seems like she can't stay away from her friends, alcohol, and cigarettes. Using her youth and beauty, she charmed Tim easily. Tim, too, was shockingly simple in being enchanted by Anna. At some point, he just loved younger women. I understand, I'm not young anymore, and I've changed since those days. More wrinkles, more aches. Yet, I thought we'd grow old together. Just like that home. Having a fickle nature is a loss. You, who can't finish anything responsibly, are suited for endless hell. Especially with your beloved young devil by your side. Let both of you fall into hell together. It's been about 2 months since I left the house. Lately, my work's been going well. It looks like I can expect good numbers again this month. I decided to take a break, and just then, my phone rang. The screen displayed Tim. I had been expecting a call around this time, but I wished it wouldn't come on such a good day. Still, since it was important, I pressed the answer button.
Hello, what's up?
Before I could finish asking what was wrong, a shout came from the other end.
Hey! I don't know what's going on, but I'm being pressured to pay the house mortgage. I'm supposed to be paying it monthly, something's wrong. Did you do something?
Just as I thought, it was about the mortgage payment. There's no way Tim could afford a $5,400 payment when he thinks it's only $1,400. He must have quickly spent all the savings I left behind.
I haven't done anything, you know? More importantly, have you been properly depositing your salary for living expenses and repayment amounts? If you did, there wouldn't be any need for pressure to repay.
I stated the obvious. Tim, guilty as charged, didn't retort immediately. But after thinking it over, he attacked again.
I made sure to leave money behind. I left $4,200 for 3 months, which is definitely enough for the payments. So, there's no way the repayment should be falling behind now.
Oh, brother, he still hadn't realized. I thought he would at least glance over the account details. I let out a sigh too big to count. Continuing this conversation over the phone seemed pointless.
All right. I'll come over tonight. Ryan and Mark will join us.
Wait with Anna. When I said that, Tim reluctantly agreed. Before I knew it, Ryan and Mark were beside me. They seemed to have a rough idea of the situation. They nodded towards me. And I nodded back firmly, then we headed to Tim and Anna's place. The first to rush out was Anna.
Ryan! Where have you been without coming back here? And quitting your job, what's that about? I got you that job through a contact, don't mess around.
She started yelling like a banshee as soon as the door opened, causing not just Ryan, but Mark and I to recoil a bit. Ryan calmed her down, and we all entered the house. I was shocked when we got to the living room. It was far dirtier than when I lived there. Clothes were scattered everywhere, leftover food was left out. Shelves were dusty, and tiny flies buzzed around. Ryan, sitting Anna down on the sofa, had a firm, husbandly demeanor unlike his usual gentle self.
Anna, about what you said earlier. You said you asked a contact to get me the job, but I never asked for it, right? I wanted to stay at my previous job. Somehow I was made to quit and ended up at the new one without my say. I tried to do my best thinking it was what you wanted, but I always felt uneasy.
Ryan explained that he reluctantly agreed to change jobs because Anna wanted a better salary. But he realized the pay wasn't much better for the hard work. And later, it was even reduced. The company gave unsatisfactory reasons like rising fuel costs, which only increased his distrust.
Mark found out the reduced amount was going to Anna. Being from a contacts company, such things were possible. If you had just told me, I would have welcomed using it for living expenses. But Anna, you also demanded living expenses and hospital fees from me. What did you use that money for? I can't trust Anna anymore.
Ryan spoke with quiet anger but looked somewhat sad. I felt an overwhelming urge to hug Ryan right then.
What? It's just money. Do you know how lucky a boring guy like you is to marry me? Contribute some money. Yeah, you're so dull it's depressing to have you around. That's why I wanted you to change jobs to that company where you're away more. I thought I married a man who'd do anything I say, but you're the worst.
Anna retorted, completely unapologetic for hurting Ryan. Mark and I almost leaped forward, wishing we could slap her in Ryan's place. My fists trembled slightly.
Enough with the marital spat. My issue is more important. Holly, like I said, I had left enough for 3 months of payments.
Tim finally spoke up after being silent since we arrived. Continuing our phone conversation.
3 months, huh? Then you should have left at least $16,200.
At my words, Tim's eyes widened.
What? The mortgage is $1,400 a month, right? Anna said so. The repayment for a house mortgage is usually about $1,400.
That misinformation, it seems, was disseminated by Anna. Anna was nodding vigorously next to Tim.
Yeah. My friend even said they bought a condo with a monthly payment of $1,300 to $1,500, saying it's the same as paying rent.
I felt bad for bursting Anna's bubble, but this is a detached house where Tim was quite particular about the interior and layout, plus it's not even close to being cheap given its location away from the station. Tim had borrowed up to the limit he could afford and built this house on a 35-year mortgage.
Hey, did you even look at the bank statement? There's no way the monthly payment for this house is only $1,400.
At my words, Tim hastily pulled out the notification. Anna peeked over from the side.
What? The repayment is $5,400?
Tim turned pale and dropped the passbook. He should have double-checked when buying the house. Do people forget if they neglect payments over 30 years?
Exactly, so $4,200 doesn't even cover 1 month.
I couldn't help but smile. He mentioned leaving only $4,200, but I'll ask about the rest of the money I saved later.
Wait. I wasn't told about this. Tim said I could get this house with a $1,400 monthly payment.
Anna's words sent shivers down my spine. And surely I wasn't the only one. Ryan looked at them with an unexpectedly cold expression. What are you going to do? Can you pay? If you want to continue living in this house, you have to pay.
And just so you know, we have no intention of paying for a house we're not living in, so don't count on us.
Ryan and Mark nodded at my words. Then Tim questioned me.
Wait a minute. How have you been paying a $5,400 mortgage until now? A housewife like you couldn't possibly pay that much.
After 30 years together, Tim still didn't understand me. It's quite disappointing.
Mom's been running an e-commerce site.
It's quite popular, didn't you know?
Now, I'm helping her with the product photography, and my brother handles the accounting.
Yes, I've been running an e-commerce site from home for quite some time. It's been well received, and recently I started selling pet goods, inspired by Mary. Thanks to my son's help, the business is doing even better. Tim looked at me, unable to believe my earnings. Hearing all this, Anna raised her voice.
Wait, Ryan! You're supposed to be on my side, right? We're living together, aren't we? If you're earning so well, then you should pay the remaining mortgage.
Anna's remark had Tim chiming in with agreement. What an unbelievable father, pushing mortgage payments onto his son. Ryan, however, remained calm and said to Anna,
Anna, you introduced me to a job that keeps me away for long periods, right? What were you doing during the 2 weeks I was gone? Did you take care of the house, prepare meals, do anything useful?
No, you didn't.
And besides...
Ryan stopped mid-sentence and laid out several photos on the table. The photos showed Anna walking intimately with an unknown man in a busy street, including entering a hotel.
What is this? It's fabricated. You're framing me with this.
Anna grabbed the photos from the table and started tearing them up.
Sorry, but those are film photos. Can't fabricate those.
Mark, a professional photographer, prefers film cameras and doesn't use digital ones for personal commitment.
At first, I thought I mistook someone else for you in the busy street, but then I saw you again on a different day. My brother was worried, so I couldn't help but take the shot.
Anna glared at Mark as he explained. Ryan, without changing his expression, told Anna in an emotionless voice.
Anna, let's end this. We're getting a divorce.
At Ryan's words, Anna screamed.
What? Ryan, you dare dictate to me? I'm glad to be rid of a gloomy man like you.
Anna, though beautiful and stylish, was unfortunately lacking in personality and intelligence. She probably wouldn't understand even if we explained that she was at fault. It's a waste of time to convince her ourselves, so we'll have a lawyer explain it in detail. There's more we need to confront Anna about. By the way, Anna, you weren't really pregnant, were you? Anna's face contorted at the mention.
Anna, you've been here for 5 months, but your figure hasn't changed at all. And consuming alcohol and cigarettes every night is a bit much, don't you think?
Anna's face became increasingly rigid. And with a completely stiffened face, she retorted.
What? It's just a little lie, right? Why get so mad? You got to dream about having a grandchild. That must have made you a bit happy, right? I mean, I'm actually glad Ryan never had a child.
Hearing Anna say that, I nearly raised my hand in anger. Her disregard for people's feelings was infuriating. Looking at Ryan, I noticed he seemed calmer than expected. Perhaps he had sensed Anna's lie.
You said you were hospitalized and took money from Mom for that, right?
That could potentially be fraud, Mark added, to which Anna objected.
I was really hospitalized. Not for pregnancy, but for another illness.
Despite her claim, no one believed her. Especially since we had confirmed through Anna's social media that she had been on a vacation to Hawaii during the so-called hospitalization. Her tanned skin was evidence of that. She must have thought I, an older woman, wouldn't use social media. Which was amusingly naive. While we were confronting Anna, Tim sipped his tea as if he was an outsider to this mess. It was about time for Tim to face his consequences as well. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to live in this house? Tim, as if he had a brilliant idea, suggested to me.
I can't pay the $5,400. If you guys won't help, how about we sell the house? It could fetch millions. It's in my name, so it's my money, right? Then I'll use that money to find a new place. Sounds like a great plan, doesn't it?
I almost admired Tim for his shallow thinking. I explained to Tim in terms he could understand.
Tim, the mortgage still has 6 years left, roughly $400,000, right? Let's say this house is worth $600,000. If we sell it, we only get $200,000. Understand? And that $200,000 will be split between us in the divorce. So, you might get $100,000. But I'll be claiming money from you. So, in the end, you'll be left with very little money.
Tim seemed unsure if he grasped the explanation. Probably overwhelmed by where to start asking.
What? What's property division?
Indeed, it's a term of interest. I simply replied.
Yes, because we're divorcing.
Tim's face twitched for a moment. I figured it'd be hard for him to articulate what's next, so I decided to spell it out.
You've been introducing your model friends to your friends, right? It's trendy among young girls to go out with older men and get allowances, isn't it? You and Anna had a win-win situation. Did you know that there were mixers happening in this living room with older men and models at night?
As I spoke, both Tim and Anna paled, clearly hitting a nerve. Yet Anna, resilient as ever, contested.
Don't make stuff up. There's no evidence of that.
I presented the evidence as requested. It was footage from a pet camera in the living room, which I had thought I turned off when I left. Somehow, it got turned on, likely by someone drunk, and to my surprise, sent me footage of Tim and his older friends partying with young women in our living room.
This footage is from the pet camera for Mary. I thought I turned it off when I left. Someone must have accidentally turned it on. I was shocked to suddenly receive such footage.
The camera, intended to check on Mary via smartphone, inadvertently provided proof of the misconduct.
Oh, Dad. By the way, I caught you and a young girl entering a hotel in the entertainment district on camera. I really didn't want to take such photos of you.
With all evidence laid out, Tim and Anna had nothing to counter. They sank deeper into the sofa, their gaze distant as if attending their own funeral. The living room, meant for family gatherings, now resembled a wake. I wondered what the house, built 30 years ago with so much hope, thought of its crumbling family now. In the silence, the creaking of the house could be heard. It was clear Tim couldn't pay off the mortgage. Maybe he wanted to see what decision he would make in the end. Tim proposed selling the house. Showing his attachment was only superficial. Perhaps he had lost interest in the house and the family when he stopped contributing financially. Maybe I should have divorced him sooner. Now, it's unclear.
Oh, there's a scratch on the wall. I'll fix it later.
The house became mine after I paid off the remaining mortgage in full and changed the deed into my name, transforming it from Tim's house into mine. I have always taken great pride in the deep affection I've poured into this home, so the option to sell it was simply unthinkable for me. Tim seemed to want to sell the house until the very end, to keep a bit of money in hand, but I firmly refused. After all, he had been quite reckless with his spending. It was time he learned a bit about saving. The savings we had as shared property apparently vanished into expenses for his young female companions. I heard through the grapevine that he's now living in a small place. Currently, the house has undergone slight renovations to serve as both my office and home. Ryan and Mark are also living here with me, helping with my work. They've become indispensable ACE staff rather than just helpers.
Mom, could you check this?
Ryan has taken over accounting, leveraging his certifications. Anna and Ryan officially divorced through a lawyer. Ryan ignored her nonsense till the very end. There could have been legal implications for lying about being pregnant and taking money from me. But since her parents repaid the amount I gave, I didn't pursue charges. Kind Ryan regretted not being able to give me grandchildren.
Let's take a break, Ryan, Mark.
We sat on the lawn in the garden, enjoying the nice weather. We used to sunbathe in the garden when the boys were little. I'm the happiest right now, I blurted out, and the boys laughed together. We planted a small sapling in the garden, symbolizing a new beginning and wishing for future happiness. Mary chased around the sapling with interest. I wonder what the boys, and Mary will be like when this sapling grows big. I stopped pondering and decided not to think about it because I feel happy now. My sons waved at me from the balcony window, and Mary looked at their faces and barked cutely. It's another beautiful day today. I am happy now.
Wait a minute. That's too sudden. You like this, don't you? She wouldn't do this for you. Don't say that, sis. Call me by my name, like you always do.
I was standing in front of the bedroom door. It dawned on me right then that my husband's lover was my own sister. A rage boiled within me, and I pinched my hand to calm the urge to burst in.
I need to keep my cool.
I decided to pull out my smartphone and start recording the conversation. Never would I have guessed that she was the other woman. I realized something was off when I got home.
I'm home.
There was a pair of women's shoes at the entrance that I didn't recognize. I instantly knew he had brought a woman home. Hearing voices from the bedroom upstairs, I moved quickly to the door. Their voices were loud enough to fill the house, indicating they were still enjoying themselves.
But why did you choose this house today? Because it's more thrilling, isn't it? I guess so, but we usually meet at our parents' place.
We were careful not to get caught before. Well, she is so clueless she never noticed. You're right about that. She'd never imagine us doing this. Such a fool. Now I understood why I hadn't noticed their affair. They had been meeting secretly at our parents' house. Still, I continued to record, thinking this would serve as evidence. I wondered what our parents would think upon hearing this. It was the only way to keep my sanity. I considered confronting them, but my feet wouldn't move. Entering the room meant witnessing them in the act. Something I instinctively didn't want to see.
Hey, when are you going to give me a child?
No, that would be bad. Your husband would find out.
It'll be fine.
If you sleep with him later, he won't suspect a thing. He's so oblivious.
What a terrible wife. Not as bad as you.
Listening to their conversation made my head ache and brought on nausea. I was at my limit. I decided to call out to my husband.
Where are you?
Realizing my presence, they panicked, and I heard the sound of a window opening. They probably tried to hide on the balcony. But that was the worst decision they could make. Because, of all days, it was heavily snowing today. Well, that was a mistake. I slowly entered the room. Clothes were scattered all over. They had gone outside completely naked. Looking out, I saw them trying to hide at the edge, curled up small. I immediately locked the door. Now, I was thinking about what kind of punishment to give them. I never thought I'd be this thrilled. My name is Emma, I'm 34 years old and I work in sales at a local company. I lived with my husband, Tom, who is 3 years older than me. I met Tom while on a sales visit. In my mid-20s, I had just changed jobs and was still getting used to the work. I remember how kindly he treated me, even then.
Thank you very much. Not at all. Keep up the good work. Yes.
At that time, I just thought he was a nice person. It took some time before we met again, but it turned out to be a fateful encounter. I have an older sister named Amelia, and it turned out that Tom was one of her classmates in both high school and college. Amelia had gotten married 3 years ago, and Tom was one of the attendees at her wedding.
Do you remember me? From the sales visit. Right. Who would have thought we'd meet here? Excuse me, but how do you know my sister? Amelia and I were classmates in high school and college. I see.
As we chatted amiably, the day's main character, my sister, came over.
Huh? You two know each other? Well, from work. No, it wasn't any trouble. But thanks to you, I managed to secure a contract. That must have been because of your own skills.
As this back and forth continued, my sister began to laugh.
What's so funny? Just thinking you two seem to get along pretty well. Don't tease me. I'm quite serious, actually.
Thanks to my sister's mediation, Tom and I exchanged contact information. However, my sister can be quite pushy, so I thought Tom might have been bothered by it. But about a week after exchanging contacts, he called.
Hello? Sorry for calling out of the blue. It's okay. What's up? What is it? How about we go out for dinner sometime? Yes, sure.
I found myself agreeing reflexively.
I'll call you back then.
And with that, the call ended. I wasn't opposed to the idea, but it was too late to decline. To be honest, I didn't have much experience with romance and didn't know what to do. It was just dinner, but I was still nervous. At that time, I was still living at my parents' house, so I decided to consult with my sister. Even after getting married, she wanted to stay living with our parents, so she remained at home.
Wow, you got asked out. That's great. No, it's not about being great. I have no experience with this kind of thing. Then, you did the right thing by coming to me for advice.
My sister Amelia has always been popular. During our school days, she brought various guys home. I thought I could get some good advice from her, but that was a mistake. Even though she had calmed down after becoming an adult, she enjoyed forcing her opinions on me, the more introverted one. And how many times that made me cry.
Emma, just go with the flow. With me around, you have nothing to worry about. So, what should I do? Well, how about flirting a bit? Huh? Tom is weak for that kind of thing. Wait. I'm just going to have dinner. What are you saying? It won't just end with dinner.
And so, Amelia kept giving off-target advice. And the problem wasn't just her. Our parents doted on Amelia, so in a way, she did whatever she wanted. They preferred her, who got easily flattered, over the hard-to-handle me. I really wanted to move out right after graduating college, but they wouldn't allow it. They wanted to keep me close, even though they weren't particularly interested. And then the day of the dinner came.
Good luck. Okay, I'm off.
I think the dinner went well, ultimately. It was a lot more enjoyable than feeling cramped at home.
If it's okay with you, could we meet again? If you're fine with someone like me, please. That's great. I'm not very used to women, you know. If you say that, I'm even less used to men. No, I'm definitely less experienced. No, it's me.
While we were having this exchange, we ended up laughing together. It had been a long time since I had so much fun. It was only natural for us, gradually getting closer, to start dating. However, Amelia wasn't pleased about it. Despite having egged me on so much.
What? You're really dating? Yes, but I never thought you'd actually date. Did you follow my advice? Of course not. How did this happen?
The reason behind Amelia's failure to stir things up would come from an unexpected person.
Really? Is that so?
That person was Samuel, Amelia's husband.
Yeah. It's true. You know I met Amelia in college, right? Yes, I've heard from my sister. I became good friends with Tom then. It seems he liked her since high school but never got a chance since Tom had a girlfriend at the time. But why are you telling me this? I overheard you talking the other day. But, you know, she's not all bad.
My brother-in-law, Samuel, had a somewhat sad look on his face. He truly cared about Amelia. Yet, Amelia was still obsessing over a man she liked in the past. And this situation was deeper and more serious than I had thought, leading to unbelievable circumstances. We started dating without issues, but Amelia began to constantly check on my activities. Her behavior was abnormal, coming to my room and not leaving until she heard an answer that satisfied her.
So, what else? Well, when you say what else, I don't know what you mean. Like, for example, going to a hotel or something. I don't know about that.
This was my little act of rebellion. After that, Amelia calmed down. A year had passed since Tom and I started dating. On my birthday.
Happy birthday. Thank you.
This is my birthday present for you.
What is it?
Inside the small box was a beautiful ring.
Is this? I want you to marry me. I'm so happy. Please, take good care of me. I will make you happy.
I was over the moon when I accepted the proposal. Not just because I would be with Tom, but also because I could finally leave my parents' house. We kept our excitement in check and went to greet both families. Tom's parents welcomed us more warmly than I had expected. The problem was my family.
So, Emma is getting married. I welcome Tom. Thank you.
Even my parents, who had not been very interested in me, seemed genuinely happy. But Amelia couldn't keep quiet.
What? You're not going to live here? Amelia, what are you saying? You guys live together. We don't have any extra rooms, and that's just not possible. Then we could remodel or something. There are plenty of ways. Don't be unreasonable. We can't do that.
Amelia was unusually anxious. Well, this was part of my plan. After that, Amelia desperately tried to keep me in the house.
Enough already. It's not our place to say anything. Stay out of this. You.
Samuel seemed taken aback by Amelia's antics.
Anyway, we're going to look for a house of our own. Right? Yeah, that's right. So, we're going to look for a house of our own. If you two have decided, then that's what you should do. Thank you.
I'll never forget the look of frustration on Amelia's face when I left home. Now that I could leave my parents' house, I found some peace for a while. Though it was in the next city, we decided to rent a house for a bargain. I never imagined being with the person I love could bring so much happiness. Even though we lived apart, we would gather at my parents' house for the holidays and New Year's. It was just a few months, but I had never been away from home for so long, so I felt a bit nervous.
I'm home. Welcome back. You're home.
Yeah. Where's Amelia?
She went shopping. Mother-in-law, it's been a while. Tom, you look well. Come in.
Sitting on the living room sofa, they brought out an abundance of snacks.
We can't eat all this. Well, it's been a while. But it's only been a few months. Don't be shy.
I hadn't expected such a warm welcome since Amelia was always the priority. Then, Amelia and Samuel returned from shopping. Emma, you're here.
It's been a while.
I greeted them, but Amelia ignored me and went straight to the kitchen.
Tom, long time no see. Gained some weight? No, Emma's cooking is just too good. That's good to hear. You look happy. Thanks to you.
The family gathered, enjoying tea and conversation. Normally, Amelia was talkative, but she was quiet today. After about an hour, my mother noticed something.
By the way, did you buy the usual sweets from the store in front of the station?
I forgot.
Really, be more careful.
But it's not like we need.
What are you saying? It's a tradition. What should we do? Can we still make it if we go now?
Then, Tom offered to go.
I'll go. We came by car today. But that's too much trouble. No, please, let me do this. Sorry, I'll be back soon. Okay.
As Tom was getting ready, Amelia insisted on going with him.
It's my fault for forgetting, and Tom might not know what to buy.
Let's go. Amelia hurried out, pulling Tom by the arm. Seeing them leave, my father let out a heavy sigh. What's wrong? Lately, something seems off.
She's very forgetful, and overall, she seems to lack motivation.
Even my sister Amelia, who used to be doted upon so much, now seems to be treated as a nuisance. My brother-in-law, Samuel, also seemed a bit worn out. It means that the roles between my sister and me had reversed since I moved out. An awkward silence followed. It's only about a 10-minute drive to the station. Yet, it was taking too long. My mother was the first to notice.
It's taking unusually long, isn't it?
Indeed. It's been over an hour now. An indescribable anxiety hit me. Eventually, they returned home 30 minutes later.
You took your time.
The roads were a bit congested.
Did you get what you went for?
We did. Amelia handed over the bag she had brought back. However, my mother stopped moving as she looked inside.
What's this?
That's what we were asked to get.
Where did you go? This is completely different. I understand Tom might not know, but you were with him. Never mind.
My mother looked tired. It doesn't matter anyway. I could hear her mutter under her breath. Moreover, upon closer inspection, Amelia's hair was more disheveled than before she left. I observed my sister carefully. It seemed Samuel did the same. Our eyes met briefly. It felt like he wanted to say something to me.
What are you even doing?
Despite the family gathering, the atmosphere couldn't be worse. Why did it have to turn out like this? Thus, the holiday passed in an awkward atmosphere. Returning home, I felt all the accumulated tiredness surge at once. I ended up falling asleep on the sofa, only to be awakened by Tom talking on the phone.
It's fine. It won't be found out.
I called out to Tom.
Who are you talking to?
Tom looked startled and then hung up the phone. Coming over to me.
Did you wake up? Who was that?
A colleague from work.
That sounded quite friendly for a colleague.
As I pressed on, I could sense him getting increasingly irritated.
Lying won't get you anywhere. What do you want to say?
Nothing. Thinking we were getting nowhere, I tried to end the conversation, but Tom wouldn't let go of my arm.
Do you doubt me? What is it?
Tom, usually seen as gentle, had a look in his eyes like he was possessed by something.
It hurts. Let go. Then will you stop doubting me? I'll do as you say.
Finally, he let go of my arm. When I looked at my arm, the mark was still clearly visible. From that moment, I began to fear Tom. 2 months later, I was on my way to the hospital after a call from my mother. My father had missed a step on the stairs at home and fractured his bone.
Are you okay?
Yeah, somehow.
You missed a step?
Really did something stupid. My father would be discharged from the hospital in a few months, but he would need family support at home until he fully recovered. I felt relieved because Samuel was with us, but unfortunately, he was scheduled for a business trip for 2 months. That day, the family gathered at the house. I'm sorry to leave the house at such a time. Well, it can't be helped. Don't worry about me and just do your best. Yes. But what should we do? My back is also bad. Then, I will. Tom interrupted, offering to take care of my father himself.
I'll take care of Dad.
Really? You have work too. It must be hard, right? I can't come every day, but I can make it on weekends. But you're newlyweds, aren't you?
Emma is okay with it, right? Having a man around is better. Let's do it this way.
But, do you not care what happens to Dad?
I didn't say that.
Seeing that we were not getting anywhere, I reluctantly accepted Tom's offer. Unaware it was the beginning of the worst scenario. From then on, Tom would head to my parents' house every Saturday. At the same time, I started noticing a sweet scent on Tom. I didn't miss it.
Doesn't it smell sweet? Do you think so? Like perfume? Perfume!
I could tell that Tom's face contorted. I was certain he was hiding something. I kept pressing with questions.
But I feel like I've smelled it somewhere before. Where was it?
I asked deliberately.
It's probably your imagination.
Really? You don't know? You're being persistent.
I don't know anything about women's perfume.
I didn't miss his statement.
Nobody said anything about it being women's.
How did you know?
Most sweet-smelling stuff is for women, right?
It was a weak excuse.
Tell me what you know.
In that moment, something whizzed past my face. I hesitantly looked behind me. There, a mug lay shattered in pieces.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
I sat down abruptly on the spot. It didn't hit me, but the thought of what could have happened made my hands tremble uncontrollably.
I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. It was just a reflex.
I didn't know how to respond. I was reminded of the fear I had felt before. From that moment on, I felt my life was in danger and couldn't confront Tom as strongly as I wanted. My state of mind was reset by a phone call. My father's condition improved, and though it was still awkward, he could walk without crutches. I found out during a phone call.
How are you feeling? Much better. That's good to hear. By the way, how's Tom? He's been a big help. Very considerate.
Hearing that brought me a bit of relief.
Right. Samuel wants your contact info. Is it okay to give it to him? That's fine. But why?
We hadn't exchanged contact information before. Simply, there hadn't been an opportunity. The call from my brother-in-law came that night.
Sorry for calling out of the blue. It's fine. Aren't you coming back soon? Yeah. In about 2 weeks, I guess. I see. About why I asked for your contact.
He began to explain.
What do you mean?
I've been concerned for a while. I couldn't say it until now. To be honest, I've been concerned too.
Emma, you felt that way too, huh?
I'm sorry. But what should we do?
That's exactly it. Then, I'll also be cautious about both of them.
I should be the one doing it, but I can't be there.
I'll let you know immediately if I find out anything. Sorry. Thank you.
I felt a bit relieved knowing my brother-in-law, Samuel, shared my concerns. We couldn't just do nothing. So, I decided to investigate Tom's detailed actions. I quickly arranged for someone to look into it and just had to wait for the results. I wanted to sort things out before Samuel returned, not just for my sake. What do you mean by that? I had arranged for a week-long investigation, but it turned up nothing suspicious. During the weekdays, Tom went to work and came back as usual. On weekends, he would go to my father's house from morning till night as part of his routine. I shared these facts with Samuel.
So, that was it. Was it just a misunderstanding?
Maybe.
It should be a relief that nothing was wrong, but it still feels odd. I get it. It's like an incomplete feeling, isn't it? Maybe because we doubted him from the start.
We decided to carry on with our normal lives, relieved that nothing had happened. There was 1 week left until Samuel's return. 2 days later, my father was able to do things on his own, marking the end of Tom's support.
Thanks for all your hard work. Yeah, thank you. You seem down.
Not really. His words and expression were mismatched. And so, a week passed without any change. On Saturday at noon, I got a call from my parents.
We hate to ask, but can you come over now? I can, but what's up? There's something we need your help with. Okay, I understand.
I quickly told Tom about it.
My parents asked me to come over, so I'll be heading out. Oh, really? Yeah. Got it. Take your time. Okay.
I thought he seemed a bit too pleased. There was a forecast for heavy snow today.
I wish they hadn't asked me to come over on such a day.
When I arrived at my parents' house, both of them greeted me together.
It's cold. So, what's up? Well, first, just sit down.
Then, it was endless small talk.
By the way, where's Amelia? Amelia went out before you arrived. Something about meeting a friend. What? On a day like this? Wait, what did you need from me? What was it again, Mom? I don't know. What was it? What? If there's nothing, I'm going home. You came all this way. Stay a bit longer.
At that moment, my parents seemed desperate to keep me there. Eventually, more time passed, and the clock struck 5.
It's snowing quite hard now. Maybe you can't go back. Should you call Tom just in case? Eh? Well, you might not be able to return home. Then, I'll do that.
As my father suggested, I called Tom. Tom quickly ended the call, saying it couldn't be helped. But I had a strange feeling of unease. When I called earlier, it sounded like there was noise coming from somewhere else. Once the thought crossed my mind, I couldn't stop worrying.
Sorry, I'm actually going to head back. Oh, is that so? Well, if you must. Be careful. Yeah.
Outside, it seemed about 5 centimeters of snow had already accumulated. Shivering from the cold, I hurried home.
I'm back.
The moment I opened the front door, I sensed something was off. I found women's shoes that clearly weren't mine. I immediately knew he had brought a woman home. Then, hearing voices from the bedroom upstairs, I headed straight for the door.
Wait a minute. That's too sudden. You like this, don't you? She wouldn't do this for you. Don't say that, sis. Call me by my name, like you always do. Besides, you've never called me sister-in-law, have you?
At that moment, I realized that Tom's partner was indeed my sister Amelia. A rage boiled within me, and I pinched my hand to calm the urge to burst in.
I need to keep my cool.
I took out my smartphone and started recording the conversation. I never would have guessed that she was the other woman. Their voices, indicating they were still enjoying themselves, echoed throughout the house.
But why did you choose this house today? Because it's more exciting, and we haven't seen each other recently. That's true, but we usually meet at our parents' place.
We've been careful not to get caught before. Well, she's so clueless she never noticed.
You're right about that. She'd never imagine us doing this.
Such a fool. I understood why I hadn't noticed their affair until now. I never imagined they were meeting secretly at our parents' house. I had suspected their relationship, but thought it impossible for them to do such a thing in a place with our parents. That's why the investigation I requested showed nothing unusual. Still, thinking it would serve as evidence, I continued to record. I wondered what our parents would think if they heard this. I had to do it to keep my sanity. I thought about confronting them, but my feet wouldn't move. Entering would mean seeing them in the act, which I instinctively didn't want to see.
Hey, when are you going to give me a child? No, that would be bad. Your husband would find out, right? It's okay. If you sleep with him later, he won't suspect a thing. He's so oblivious. What a terrible wife. Not as bad as you. Plus, he won't be back until tomorrow. Meeting up is going to be hard, so it's okay, right? All right.
Listening to their conversation made my head ache and brought on nausea. I was at my limit. I decided to call out to my husband.
Where are you?
Realizing my presence, they seemed to panic and I heard the sound of a window opening. They probably tried to hide on the balcony. But that was the worst decision they could make. Well, that was a mistake. I slowly entered the room. Clothes were scattered everywhere. They had gone outside completely naked. Looking out, I saw them trying to hide at the edge, curled up small. I immediately locked the door. Now, I was thinking about what kind of punishment to give them. I left the bedroom and went downstairs. Heading to the kitchen, I slowly made coffee. After finishing the coffee, I returned to the bedroom. While looking towards the balcony and sipping my coffee, they knocked on the window.
Open this up! I'm going to freeze to death out here.
Of course, I ignored all such nonsense. Then, I had a good idea. I picked up my smartphone and made a call. First to my parents and Tom's parents, saying it was an emergency, and somehow got them to come over. The last person was my brother-in-law, Samuel. I remembered he was supposed to return today.
It was good timing. I was about to contact you. Oh, really? Are you at home? Yes, I am. Did you call because something happened?
Yes, actually. I thought revealing everything now would spoil the surprise.
So, I should come to your house, right? Yes, to my house. I just arrived at the station, so I'll be there soon. See you.
With that, all the pieces were in place. The only thing that puzzled me was Samuel's reaction. It was as if he understood too well what was happening here. Since I couldn't figure it out, I decided to wait for everyone to arrive. Our parents arrived, and I asked them to wait in the living room. 10 minutes later, Samuel arrived.
Sorry, I'm late. The roads were jammed with this snow. No, it's fine. Please, this way.
And so, the family gathered in the living room.
What's the emergency? We rushed here through the snow. Are we going to talk about it now? It's about the two who aren't here. It's understandable if Amelia isn't here, but Tom seems to be missing. That's right. Would you come with me?
I led everyone to the bedroom.
What is this? Look over there.
Pointing towards the balcony, the naked duo was staring back at us.
What's going on?
Thinking it was too dangerous to leave them out any longer, I unlocked the door.
I thought I was going to die. Can we get something warm, please?
I threw blankets at the two.
Someone had better explain what this is about.
My father, blood rushing to his head, looked ready to explode.
The two were having an affair.
My sister, looking up at Samuel in shock, asked,
Why are you here? I came back from my business trip today. That can't be. You told me you were coming back tomorrow.
I had heard it was today. After all, Samuel was here. Confusion set in. Then Samuel began to explain the truth.
I had predicted something like this might happen and had been planning accordingly. Lying to you was part of the plan.
Samuel looked at me. Sorry, Emma. I had to use you too.
Huh?
According to my brother-in-law, Samuel, he had asked our parents for cooperation. That's why I was suddenly told to come to my parents' house. It was Samuel's instruction that my father kept me there.
So, you knew about their relationship? No, it was just a suspicion. I couldn't believe it when Emma reported it to me.
I'm sorry.
I never thought they would do such a thing at my parents' house.
In hindsight, when my father broke his leg and needed care, Tom was eager to volunteer first.
Well, let's leave the explanations at that and think about what to do with these fools who fell for the trap.
The two kept their heads down, unwilling to talk. So, I decided to let everyone listen to the recording.
If you don't want to talk, I'll make it so you can. What are you planning to do? This.
When I played the recording, the voices of the two filled the bedroom, clearly indicating what they had been doing.
Stop it! You're not in a position to say that. Listen to it all.
Everyone's look turned to contempt.
What a joke. You are no longer part of this family. Perhaps it was a mistake to pour so much love into you. Don't ever show your face here again.
See? Tom looked like he was about to cry but desperately bowed his head to my parents-in-law, me, and my father.
I never thought she was that kind of woman. I noticed you were hung up on Tom, but I genuinely loved you. I felt the same way too. Hey! Who said you could talk?
Hatred filled Samuel's eyes. The intensity was almost enough to make one cry.
So, what will you two do now? What do you think? Well, divorce is certain. And then there's the matter of compensation.
Should we throw them outside again? Hearing this, the two made their last stand.
The root cause is you being busy with work and not paying attention to me. That's no excuse for having an affair. If you're going to argue, make it logical. You're just exposing your stupidity. Or should I say, it's already exposed.
My sister couldn't utter a word.
Anything else you want to say? Monkey? I was just led astray by Amelia. Really? Blaming me? You were all in. You even invited me to a hotel that time. That time? When we went shopping together. Ah.
I remembered there was such an incident during Oban. Everything must have started from there.
I just wanted to ask, why did you lure Tom? I was just irritated to see you looking so happy. I've always struggled with men.
So, you were jealous because the man you used to like ended up with me?
That's right. How stupid. This monkey isn't worth it. Maybe you should face reality.
All I could do was laugh.
That's enough. Being involved with these people will only make us stupid. Let's all go. Wait, please. Don't talk to me so casually.
We slowly closed the bedroom door behind us. The snow outside was getting stronger. Staying here wasn't an option, so we headed to the nearest house, our home. On the way, I couldn't help but wonder what would become of the two who were now ostracized by the family. My parents-in-law stayed the night and left the next day. Then, they apologized again and declared that Tom would from now on be a stranger to them.
Shall we go?
Yes. Together, we went to consult about the divorce and compensation. Having the recording made the process much easier. We were able to get the divorce quickly and file for compensation. And today was the day Samuel moved out of the family home.
Thank you for everything.
You were like a son to us. It'll be lonely. Indeed.
If it weren't for this, you two should have gotten married. Stop it, please.
During such a peaceful time, those two showed up. And for some reason, Tom had shaved his head, perhaps as a sign of repentance. Which was so ridiculous I almost laughed.
What are you doing here?
Then, both of them apologized deeply at the same time.
We've been disowned by our parents. You're the only one we can turn to now, Emma. Please. I thought I told you never to show your faces here again. My dad's right. Besides, we're divorced now. In other words, we're strangers. If you understand, then leave quickly.
But they still wouldn't give up.
Even if you do this, it's just a nuisance. Stop showing us such a disgraceful sight. I can't stand to watch any longer.
Then, Samuel offered his hand to Amelia.
Are you going to help?
Watching this, I was nervous.
Help? What misunderstanding do you have? I just wanted you to move because you're in the way.
Trying not to laugh at Amelia's stunned face was a struggle. My stomach started to hurt from holding in the laughter. So, that's the situation. You better go back home.
It looks like my dad's at his limit.
My father was standing with his arms crossed, looking somewhat proud. Seeing this, the two scurried away like fleeing animals.
Finally gone, huh? Then, I'll be off too.
You can come over whenever you like, you know. Since that incident, I've been living at my parents' house. Also, I've kept in touch with Samuel, and we occasionally go out for drinks. What the future holds, I'm not sure, but I'm certain it will be enjoyable.
Get out with your kids, you trashy wife.
With those words, my mother-in-law throws my belongings at me. I look to David for help, but he just awkwardly avoids my gaze.
How dare you deceive my precious son? I haven't cheated. This child is definitely David's. Shut up. You're probably cheating with that part-timer named Ryan, aren't you?
At those words, I snap. As if being falsely accused of cheating wasn't irritating enough, now to be suspected of having an affair with Ryan too. I glare at my mother-in-law.
What? Let's do a DNA test.
Fine by me. At my words, my mother-in-law smirks confidently. Providing evidence of your own infidelity, what a foolish wife. Laughing, my mother-in-law. I swore to prove to her that I've never cheated. 2 weeks later, I checked the results of the test and sent them to my in-laws' house. A few hours after, they must have seen the results. In just a short time, my phone was flooded with dozens of messages from my mother-in-law.
What have you done?
My name is Luna. A 27-year-old housewife.
Everyone, dinner is ready. Thanks as always.
My parents have always been gentle, and it was rare to see them argue. My mother, while gentle, always made sure that my father and I could live peacefully. My father, who never forgot to respect and appreciate her for that. Perhaps because of how they raised me, I've rarely gotten angry myself. Sure, there are things I can't compromise on or that irritate me. But getting angry is exhausting, and it often seemed easier to just let things go.
Luna, are you not pushing yourself too hard? You always give in to others.
My mother would worry about me sometimes, but I believed I had my own convictions. I stood my ground when it mattered and lived at a pace that didn't overwhelm me. That's so like Luna, always doing things at your own pace. My friend Layla often said that. I didn't mind being seen as laid back. After all, I wasn't causing trouble for anyone, so there shouldn't be any problem. And there were people who loved me for being that way.
I love how gentle you are, Luna.
Those were the words of my husband, David. We met in college. At a matchmaking party a mutual acquaintance had organized.
I hate conflict. I like people with a peaceful aura who don't get into fights, like you, Luna.
At the matchmaking party, that's what David told me. He didn't really want to attend the mixer, but also didn't want to make his friends uncomfortable by refusing. That's why he ended up going.
You really think of your friends, huh? I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Hey, Luna. If you're not seeing anyone right now, I'd like to go out with you.
And with that confession from him, we started dating. He accepted that I had my own non-negotiables, and we were able to date without any major arguments or issues.
Luna, will you marry me? Yes, I'd love to.
After several years of dating, we got married.
Thanks for becoming a part of this family. David's too good for me.
My in-laws were also gentle people, with a smiling mother-in-law and a kind-looking father-in-law. At that time, I was truly glad to become a part of their family.
What? Your father-in-law?
Not long after David and I got married, my father-in-law was hospitalized. Apparently, he was involved in a car accident. Fortunately, there was no danger to his life, but he fractured his leg and had to be hospitalized for a while.
Well, it's good that it wasn't serious.
I'm sorry to make you worry. When David and I went to visit, my father-in-law apologized with a look of regret.
Really, hearing about the accident almost took years off my life.
My mother-in-law said, her face clouded with worry. Actually, my in-laws run a restaurant. Primarily, my mother-in-law manages the place, with my father-in-law and a few part-timers supporting her. My father-in-law is good at paperwork, while my mother-in-law says, if I look at letters and numbers for too long, my head starts to hurt, indicating her aversion to it. With my father-in-law hospitalized, the person handling all the background tasks was gone. Since some of these tasks involve money, they couldn't just be left to the part-timers. What are we going to do now? I found myself muttering. It's already hard enough that my father-in-law was suddenly hospitalized, putting a mental strain on them. In this condition, managing the restaurant seems impossible. Maybe they'll have to temporarily close. Thinking this, David and I headed home.
Luna, can we talk?
As we were taking a break at home, David approached me with a look of guilt. I could somewhat guess what he wanted to say.
Can you quit your job and help out at the family restaurant?
And he pleaded with me like that. David and I work at completely different companies, doing entirely different jobs.
Hey, David. You know how much I value my current job, right?
David avoids my gaze at my question. I work at a company founded by Layla. I've been doing my dream job in design there, and I'm incredibly passionate about my work. I've talked about this to David multiple times, and he has always supported me.
I understand that. But I was hoping you could help out at the family business until Dad gets back.
At his words, I hesitated. So, I asked David for some time to think it over, leaving the matter unresolved for the moment. Indeed, running the restaurant would be difficult under these circumstances. But honestly, if it's that concerning, David could help out.
Well, that's probably impossible.
David, like his mother, isn't good at paperwork. Considering he doesn't do household chores either, it's likely he can't cook. David trying to help out at the store would just be a hindrance.
When you think about it, I'm the only option.
With that thought, I decided to consult Layla.
I get it, your in-laws are having a tough time, and it's hard to say no given your position as their daughter-in-law. That's right. Plus, I have a good relationship with my in-laws and want to help them. That's why I have a favor to ask you, Layla.
Layla gladly agreed to my request. Thanks to that, I was able to decide to help out at my in-laws' store.
David, about the store, I'll help out. Really? Thank you.
David was thrilled with my decision, and when he told his mother, she was grateful too. If they're that grateful, I'll do my best. Just when I thought that, my mother-in-law's attitude changed dramatically once I started helping. Now that you're here, you'll have to prove yourself useful. The plan was for my mother-in-law to cook, the part-timers to handle the front, and for me, who was unfamiliar with everything, to work behind the scenes. However, my mother-in-law started ordering me around. Take orders quickly, if you have time to stand around, clean, tidy up and wash the dishes. It escalated from there, and eventually, she even had me doing simple cooking tasks. Without allowing for breaks, as soon as I tried to sit, she'd say, "You're a daughter-in-law, don't slack off."
Mrs. Luna, I'll take care of this, please take a break.
That supportive voice belonged to Ryan, a college student and the part-time leader. He was observant and subtly supported me. But being unaccustomed as I was, I ended up exhausted from being overworked every day.
I'm going to collapse at this rate. Just bear with it until Dad comes back. If we can get through this, we'll manage somehow.
David would say with a troubled laugh whenever I told him about how I was being treated. David wouldn't even listen to my complaints.
Maybe I made the wrong choice.
At first, I thought David was a peace-loving and kind person. But in reality, he preferred to avoid trouble and wouldn't get involved in any. Because he's that kind of person, he wouldn't even try to mediate between my mother-in-law and me. Seeing this side of him, I sighed.
I need to rest soon.
I was told to come in early again the next day by my mother-in-law. I gave up talking to David and decided to rest in my room.
Don't dawdle, get to work quickly.
I was helping out at the store from morning, but feeling nauseous, I crouched down.
Ugh, I feel sick. Mrs. Luna? You look pale, are you okay?
Ryan, noticing me, offered to take me to the hospital.
Thank you, Ryan. It's okay. My sister Layla always takes care of me, so it's the least I can do.
Ryan smiled brightly at my words. Ryan is Layla's brother. I was surprised to find him working at my in-laws' store. We were both surprised when we saw each other there.
But if you hadn't been here, I wouldn't have made it to the hospital.
When I tried to go to the hospital, my mother-in-law complained and tried to stop me. Ryan stood up to her, saying, "Are you planning to make a sick person work?" And thanks to him, I was able to get to the hospital.
Congratulations. Eh?
And upon examination, it was discovered that I was pregnant. It seems I was feeling unwell due to morning sickness. I immediately contacted David.
What? Pregnant? Is that true? Pregnant? Luna's pregnant?
Despite it being David's phone, I could somehow hear his parents' voices.
Why can I hear your parents?
When I asked, David explained the situation with a bit of trouble. Apparently, after my mother-in-law thought I had run away, she contacted David to complain, and they ended up going together to my father-in-law to vent.
Well, until just a moment ago, my dad was actually lecturing her, saying she's working out of kindness. What are you complaining about? Really?
My father-in-law had scolded my mother-in-law, saying, "Luna quit her job out of goodwill to help, and don't make her work when she's not feeling well." Hearing that made me feel somewhat relieved. My father-in-law was on my side. That alone was comforting.
Luna, congratulations on your pregnancy.
Then, the phone was handed to my father-in-law.
My wife was wrong. I've told her to pay you a more generous salary as compensation.
At those words, I was taken aback. That's right, I hadn't received any salary. Until now, I hadn't had the luxury to worry about such things and had completely forgotten about my salary.
Luna? You haven't received your salary, have you?
My silence must have given me away. My father-in-law asked, his voice containing anger.
Well, I've been collecting it for her.
David hurriedly answered to his father's question.
Why are you collecting it? It's Luna's salary for her work. It should naturally go to her.
My father-in-law's voice was low and cold. My mother-in-law responded.
But Luna is a wife, so it should go to her husband, David. Enough. She's someone's precious daughter from another family. What are you thinking?
My father-in-law scolded. I was told later that although my father-in-law is usually mild-mannered, he becomes terrifying when someone steps out of line in terms of common sense or manners. My mother-in-law, who usually acted sweetly and amiably, was afraid of him. However, with my father-in-law hospitalized, her usual restraint was gone, leading to her recent outburst.
You've married into quite the family, haven't you?
Ryan, who had been silently listening next to me, said with a wry smile. I returned the smile with a wry one of my own.
I'm sorry for everything.
Later, David came to apologize to me. He must have been scolded by his father to protect his wife. David promised that he would truly protect me from now on.
All right. I'll forgive you this time, but in return, make sure you really protect me.
I still have feelings for David, and I don't want to deprive my child of their father. So, I decided to wait and see how things would go.
Sorry for the sudden notice. I'll be in your care from today. It's all right, you've had a tough time. Take it easy here.
Not long after, I decided to go back to my parents' house for a prenatal visit. I came home early, wary of my mother-in-law's presence.
Being pregnant isn't an illness, and you're not in your final month, so you can work as usual.
My mother-in-law contacted me after I returned from the hospital. Apparently, she hadn't learned her lesson even after being scolded by my father-in-law. I told David about it, but all he said was, "I understand. I'll talk to Mom," and nothing was done. Therefore, I used my morning sickness as an excuse to take refuge at my parents' house early. I also told my caring father-in-law about it.
My family is to blame. Luna, your decision isn't wrong,
he said, accepting my decision. My parents also warmly welcomed me, so I've been able to stay at my parents' house with peace of mind.
Well, if Luna has decided, I won't oppose it. Just make sure to give birth to a healthy child.
Even David was surprised by my early return but saw me off with those words. The only one who opposed until the end was my mother-in-law.
To think you're going back to your parents' house for your birth so early.
She complained about it. However, since she had been glared at by my father-in-law the other day, she couldn't stop me.
The store will manage by splitting the work among the part-timers. That's right. You just focus on the baby,
Ryan and Layla said, so I focused solely on my baby. This might have been the most peaceful and happiest time for me. Indeed, the morning sickness was tough, but my love for the growing baby in my belly only increased. And a few months later, I gave birth to my adorable son, Asher.
Thank you for being born, Asher.
I simply adore Asher. My parents are smitten with him, and Layla and Ryan were thrilled too. However, David seemed to be different. David, haven't seen you once. Are you that busy with work? Yeah, it seems like it. He didn't visit me while I was at my parents' house. Not even after the birth.
Hey, David. Why aren't you showing your face?
Thinking he might not be realizing his responsibilities as a father, I contacted David. I'm really sorry, work has been so busy, was his reply. I sighed at his response. What is he doing? I'll have to confront him when I get back home. With that determination, I returned home with Asher after some time.
Welcome back, Luna. And I've missed you, Asher.
David greeted us with a smile, lovingly looking at Asher. Seeing this, I felt a bit of remorse. He truly loved Asher.
I've managed to free up some time from work, so I'll be more actively involved from now on.
With those words, we were able to live peacefully for a while. However, Asher developed a sudden rash and we had to seek medical care.
Is that really true?
Yes, there's no mistake. Asher's blood type is A. During the visit, we also had Asher's blood type checked, which turned out to be A. Both David and I are type O. So, we were shocked, having assumed Asher would also be O. Of course, I haven't cheated. My only romantic experience has been with David.
Did you go to the hospital today? How was it?
The rash is getting better, but...
What? Is there something else?
David tilted his head, puzzled by my demeanor. I told him about Asher's blood type. He widened his eyes in surprise.
I didn't know that could happen.
That was all David said at the time. I was relieved because he didn't seem to suspect me.
I heard a little bit.
The next day, that's what my mother-in-law exclaimed as she barged in. Apparently, David, after hearing from me, immediately reported to his mother. She, having heard the story, suspected I had cheated and came storming in.
Having a child with your lover. You shameless wife. I haven't cheated. David is the only one for me.
I retorted while glaring at David, who had let her in and now looked uneasy behind his mother. David was fidgeting behind his mother. Amidst this, Asher, startled by his grandmother's shouting, began to cry.
Quiet. Stop it, please.
I instinctively picked up Asher to protect him from my mother-in-law's advance. She glared at me, gripping my belongings.
Take your child and get out, you shameless wife.
She screamed, throwing my things at me. I looked at David for help, but he just awkwardly looked away.
How dare you deceive my precious son? I haven't cheated. Asher is definitely David's child. Shut up. You're probably cheating with that part-timer Ryan, aren't you?
At those words, I snapped. Already irritated by the baseless accusations of infidelity, now to be suspected of something with Ryan too. I glared fiercely at my mother-in-law.
What? Let's have a DNA test.
Fine by me. At my words, my mother-in-law smirks confidently.
Providing evidence of your own infidelity, what a foolish wife.
She laughs. I vowed to prove to her that I had absolutely not cheated. After returning to my parents' house, I explained the situation to them.
How could she berate you like that?
We believe in you, Luna. My parents believed in me. And even offered to cover the costs of the DNA test.
Oh. What's wrong?
At that moment, I received a message from someone. This person had heard about the situation and offered their support.
Having that person's support would be really reassuring. I'll definitely prove them wrong.
My anger towards my mother-in-law became my driving force.
I'll make her regret this.
2 weeks later, I checked the DNA test results and sent them to my in-laws' house.
I wonder how they'll react.
Muttering to myself, I went to Asher. A few hours later, after they must have seen the results, my phone was flooded with dozens of messages from my mother-in-law.
What have you done?
Picking up the phone call that came just then, I was met with her yelling.
I just proved what you wanted. Don't joke with me, you worthless wife.
And then she proceeded to hurl insults at me. This was getting nowhere. Deciding this, I left Asher with my parents and headed to confront my in-laws.
I'm coming too. I can't forgive anyone who hurts my best friend. I'll go as well.
Layla and Ryan, who had joined us along the way, were already informed and had agreed to come with me. As a result, the three of us headed to my in-laws' house.
We're coming in. How dare you show your face here? Welcome, Luna.
At the in-laws, there was my mother-in-law, fuming with anger, my father-in-law, welcoming me with a smile, and David, cowering in a corner.
What are you angry about? I just proved my innocence. This is wrong. You must have tampered with it.
My mother-in-law lamented, holding the DNA results in her hand. There, clearly written, was that Asher was indeed David's son.
And you're still not satisfied after seeing that? How could this be possible? First of all, I've been slaving away for you. I didn't even have the time to cheat, you know?
In reality, my days were spent being called out early by my mother-in-law and only getting back around the time David returned home. Even during work, I was constantly under my mother-in-law's watchful eye, leaving no room for infidelity.
Even I, who was suspected of being the lover, was too busy with work and studies to meet outside the store. If anything, when I'm not at the store, I'm often with friends or family. You can check if you like.
Ryan confidently stated. Faced with his assertion, my mother-in-law fell silent. Then, Ryan's gaze shifted to David, who was silently observing.
Why are you staying quiet, David? Eh? First of all, it was you who asked Luna to work at the store, right? Yet, you ignore your wife being overworked and don't help her. Instead, you report to your mother to have her scold Luna in your place. That's pretty cowardly of you.
David, faced with these cold words, averted his eyes, mumbling, "That's not true." This was the perfect opportunity to air my grievances.
You don't lift a finger to help around the house even though I come home exhausted every day.
While I'm preparing meals, he lazes around on the couch, never does any cleaning or laundry, yet complains about dirt and piled up laundry. When I retort with, "If you notice, why don't you do it?" he always escapes to the bedroom, saying, "I have to get up early tomorrow." Moreover, whenever I tried to talk to him about his mother, he would only offer lip service and never actually do anything.
Just as Ryan said, you knew your mother would get angry about Asher, so you reported it, didn't you? You really are a coward. Because...
David looked away, searching for an excuse. This man is not kind. He's just a man who wants to avoid trouble.
There's no excuse. I agreed to help at the store because you asked me to. But between the salary issue and now this, I'm completely fed up with you. I'm really sorry.
Finally, David apologized, looking flustered.
I was just confused because Asher has a different blood type. About that blood type issue, there's someone else here to explain.
David and my mother-in-law puzzledly responded with to my statement. Responding to them was,
I'll explain about that.
It was my father-in-law, who had been watching the situation unfold with a smile until now. His voice was frighteningly low. Sensing something, my mother-in-law turned pale.
What's wrong, Mom?
David was confused by his mother's reaction. Ignoring the two, my father-in-law pulled out a piece of paper.
Is that a DNA test? Whose is it? Mine and yours.
Indeed, that paper was between David and his father, stating that their parent-child relationship was denied. Seeing it, David was speechless.
I'm not Dad's son.
David was actually the child of my mother-in-law's lover, not my father-in-law. The lover was type A, and David was also type A. My mother-in-law's refusal to accept Asher's DNA results and her outrage were likely attempts to cover up her own infidelity.
That's not true, right?
David had assumed he was type O because both his parents were unaware of the truth.
Well, I've always had my suspicions. Eh?
He had noticed my mother-in-law's infidelity long ago and had doubted whether David was truly his child.
But at that time, David was 10 years old, and I had already developed a bond with him from raising him. So, I thought there was no need to uncover the truth and didn't investigate further.
However, after hearing about my situation, my father-in-law became angry and decided to reveal the truth. He contacted me, saying, "I'll handle the investigation instead, so please include our tests as well."
Investigation? About what you've been using Luna's salary for?
At those words, David turned pale.
Pushing the store and household chores onto Luna while you indulge in affairs. It seems like father and son are alike in this respect, my father-in-law remarked.
Indeed, David had been having affairs and spending my salary on his lovers. It turned out his lovers didn't know he was married. In other words, he had deceived both me and his lovers.
You'll pay for this,
I told him, and David slumped down.
You two will pay for your affairs. And we're getting a divorce. I'll also quit my job,
Ryan added, following my father-in-law. Ryan then declared his decision to quit as well, as if adding to the statement. Why? My mother-in-law's face asked.
If Luna and her husband are getting a divorce, the store won't survive. You only cook and don't do any of the administrative work like accounting.
Even that cooking had lately been left to me and the staff. The regulars had noticed this, saying they came to support Luna, who works hard in her husband's place. Without me, the foot traffic had already started to dwindle. If neither Luna nor the father-in-law return to the store, the remaining regulars will leave too.
The store, supported by the regulars and Luna, will surely collapse. Everyone senses this and is quitting one after another. No way,
Ryan said, causing my mother-in-law to panic. That store was originally managed by my mother-in-law's family for generations.
I can't let it end with me. Hey, we're not getting divorced, right? It'll be hard to find a job while taking care of a child, even with support from the family.
David, realizing the situation, pleaded with me. Then, Layla stepped forward.
Unfortunately for you, she's my capable subordinate. I'll take full responsibility for employing her.
I had consulted with Layla before quitting, and she had arranged for me to return to the company anytime. So, re-employment was not an issue.
I won't forgive anyone who hurts my best friend,
Layla said with a smile to David. Following that, David and I successfully divorced. David kept pleading, "I don't want to divorce, I want to be with Luna and Asher," but Layla's husband, a lawyer, played a crucial role.
I told him to squeeze everything out of your husband.
True to Layla's word, David paid a substantial amount in alimony and child support, which I received in a lump sum, allowing me to live comfortably for a while. My father-in-law also opted for a divorce without demanding alimony, in exchange for no division of assets.
Are you sure you're okay with not demanding alimony? Yes, it's fine. I have enough savings, and either way, she's finished.
Originally, my in-laws ran the same store but kept their finances strictly separate. Thanks to this, my father-in-law had been able to save money, while my mother-in-law had squandered hers, leaving her with no savings. All that remained for her was the store.
That store will collapse soon. Once that happens, she'll have no one but David to rely on,
my father-in-law said. And that became a reality. Sometime later, while having tea with Layla, the topic came up.
What happened to David and the others? Oh, I got a message from them.
I went on to tell about what happened next. The store could no longer manage without us, leading to its quick demise. The remaining regulars left. And soon after, the store was buried in debt. Eventually, my mother-in-law had to sell the store and the land to pay off her debts and, with nothing left, ran to David.
but David seems to be having a hard time too.
Turns out, one of David's mistresses was a newcomer at a company his company dealt with. The newcomer, feeling deceived, cried and complained to everyone, quickly spreading the story. The story reached David's company, and he was indirectly asked to resign.
With the money from selling their house, David had to pay off the debt he incurred to cover the alimony and child support and moved to a cheap apartment. He was living day to day on part-time jobs when his mother showed up, making life even harder for him. And he reached out to you for help? After betraying you first, as if you would help him.
Exactly.
I blocked him immediately.
He had sent a long message detailing his situation, but I didn't respond and blocked him instead. Thankfully, I've been living peacefully since. Meanwhile, I've been raising Asher smoothly with my parents' help. With my stay-at-home mom actively taking care of him, I can raise my child with peace of mind.
It's good to see you happy. Let's talk about the future then.
We were having tea today to discuss future plans. With Asher still requiring a lot of care, I plan to start working from home once he grows a bit more.
I'm so glad you're back, Luna. Your designs are popular, and there's something special about them that only you can create.
Layla complimented me. Feeling appreciated like this motivated me to work hard once I return. A few years later, around the time I began to return to work.
Hello. How are Asher and you today? Hello. He's been energetic since the morning.
Ryan stopped by the workplace. He's always been considerate and fond of Asher. Now a university graduate, Ryan works diligently in sales at the same company as Layla and me.
Luna, I've liked you for a long time. Will you go out with me?
Ryan proposed, leaving me speechless. Facing my stunned silence, he looked at me earnestly.
I'll make sure both you and Asher are happy.
Ryan said that to me. However, I'm 5 years older than him. Because of that, I couldn't immediately respond and decided to put off answering. Then, soon after that.
Luna. Eh? David?
David appeared before me. Surprised by the sudden encounter, I couldn't flee immediately, and David approached me with a smile.
I've been looking for you. Hey, let's get back together. I can't stand it anymore. I refuse. Who would get back with you?
I immediately rejected David's words.
You too? You're mocking me too.
Then, suddenly angry, David raised his fist towards me. That's when it happened.
What are you doing?
Ryan intervened, pulling me close and glaring at David.
Enough already. Luna doesn't need you anymore. Shut up. What do you know about Luna? Hey, Luna, you still need me, right? No, I don't need you. I already have him.
At my words, David looked hurt.
What's that supposed to mean? In the end, you betrayed me and had an affair with him.
Ryan and I both showed a look of disbelief at his words. We had said at the time that neither of us had the time to engage in affairs.
Unlike you, I haven't cheated. He and I aren't even officially dating yet. Lies. It's not a lie. Indeed, he confessed to me recently, but I haven't given him an answer yet.
Though, my feelings are pretty much decided. Thinking this, I held Ryan's hand that was embracing me. Then, Ryan widened his eyes and then smiled happily.
You have no place here anymore. Or would you prefer I call the police?
At my words, David left, cursing. Apparently, he didn't want the police involved.
About what you said just now. I'll be happy with you and Asher, right?
At my words, Ryan nodded with a smile. And that's when we started dating. Later, I asked Layla's husband to issue a restraining order against David. It seems he had finally snapped at his mother for squandering his earnings and pressuring their lives and kicked her out. Feeling lonely afterward, he sought us out. The ousted mother wandered without a destination and eventually went missing.
It doesn't matter anymore. Because now, I am happy. Luna, it's about time. Yes, I'm coming.
Today is Asher's entrance ceremony. Asher adores Ryan as his dad. Ryan is fully committed to responding to such Asher. To anyone looking, they were a happy family. I'm truly glad to have become a family with the two of them. With that thought, I headed towards them.